This conference will now be recorded.
All right, we will call the meeting to order, stand for the pledge. To the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Yeah. Lord, as we gather this day, Lord, visit the people of those of Owego. Grant us wisdom, compassion, and understanding. Amen.
All right, so our first thing is a public hearing on safe building 59 McMaster Street. We technically don't really need this, but is anybody here for it?
Well, I'm not here exactly for that, but when I read that, it came to mind that the school has sometimes taken down buildings and stuff like that. And I just wonder if thought was given to allowing them to deconstruct it rather than demolish it.
Yeah, so an update is they filed for a demo permit. I don't know if that's deconstructing it or, with a crane.
It was just a
They didn't express.
thought.
Yeah.
Whereabouts?
59 McMaster. It's a garage.
Whatever that way, it's a big barn garage.
Is it an old structure?
Yeah, isn't it falling down?
Yeah, it looks like the leaning.
Is that Watkins's old place? In that vicinity?
Yeah.
It's probably, was that Kenny Lynn's old place?
Are there old barn doors or things in there that like architectural salvage would want? Like, old barn wood is a highly sought after thing, people put a lot of money. Very trendy.
I don't think that barn was too trendy.
I mean, it's work, but
I think it's more moldy than it is anything else.
well, moldy would be bad.
Yeah.
We still have a tornado watch until later on today, so.
Yeah, really.
Yes.
It doesn't matter. But anyway, we'll close that public hearing if nobody's here. They did file for a demo permit, so we didn't really need the public hearing. That was to move stuff along code enforcement wise. So our next normal, it's not on the agenda, but our normal first thing is public comment. Do we have any good public comment?
Hi, my name's Kim Trady and I'm at 275 Front Street. And I got word on Friday that the flood mitigation grant was signed by the village, and I'm just here to say, first of all, thank you. Number two, where do I go next?
That's a good question.
So I would need documentation.
Yeah, we'll have to get with Mark, not you, but one of your other buddies. Figure out what you do next. I don't know, honestly.
Okay.
I know they're doing it in phases, so.
Right, so I got a response from my landscape architect and structural engineer that want to at least get started on paperwork by September, which is, shortly. So I'm just hoping that we get as much information as possible on what direction to go next.
Yep.
Thank you.
You email me, I might not know what it is currently, but I'll get you right.
Okay, Tammy hasn't
Tammy.
responded back to me yet. Well,
I'll touch base with her, it's
Okay.
right next to me.
Kim, what's your address on?
275.
275.
And phase just means that you're gonna have a design phase and a design review, and then they'll approve, and then they'll approve, and then go into the next.
And I would like to meet with somebody. Is there somebody on the board that can be the point person? Because again, my understanding is it's the village that was the grant, that is the grant recipient, not me.
That's correct, yeah.
So is there somebody in particular that I should reach out to when I have questions?
Good one.
I would be your person. So first thing is probably just getting an email of the award notification, so that you can share it with the bank and the builders and
How
stuff.
can I get that?
I have it probably, so I can send it to
Okay,
you. Somewhere buried in my email, I'm sure.
okay.
'Cause I have to sign it, so.
So should I email you?
Yeah, or Cindy and Kim kind of do in the office here.
Okay. Okay, so that should get the ball rolling so that I can get started on my work.
Yeah.
Okay, and I'll talk to you about that as well. Okay, thank you, everybody, I appreciate the commitment that you guys do to help with this, I appreciate it.
I'm Paul Conti, I live across the street. Are they gonna do any kind of survey on hydraulic study? Because last flood, I did get flood, now across the street, they're raising it up, and is that something that's gonna get looked at?
So that might be part of the study, I would assume. I can't tell you for sure, but I would think it'd be part of the analysis.
Who's the engineer on the job?
So that's a good question. I don't
Hasn't
know if
started
it's
yet.
through-
Nobody's been assigned.
I don't know if it's.
Excuse me?
through FEMA or-
Nobody's been assigned because it hasn't started yet.
Okay, well, I'm just trying to check.
Month has helped us so far as far as getting a grant.
Chris Wells, 30 Front Street. I noticed the letter about 44 Front Street still is not on the agenda for tonight. Is that still with lawyer tonight?
Yep.
So question number one is, originally it was a 30-day review. Do the lawyers just keep it until Albany decides?
That's a good
I
question.
would think the village board shouldn't let that happen, number one. But, yeah, number two, I noticed the minutes from the July 6th meeting came out. They're listed as no public comment. How come the issues about 44 Front Street, comments made by various people, are listed in those minutes?
Did you read the whole minutes?
What?
Read the whole minutes?
It's a summary. Maybe it's a summary report, I don't know. It's online. When it says public comment, it says none.
But we can fix that for sure, because we got recorded.
Well, you have to read the minutes, I'm sure there's something.
Just as a footnote too, along the discussion on that, we've been doing some, research and things like that. And I know there was a building permit that was actually issued for their banquet area. Estimated cost $8,000 for a 30 by 52 foot room. If anybody could build a room for $8,000, I'd be hire them. In that permit, it says the use of the facility they're requesting to build is a wedding venue. So that goes against the zoning for the building, so I would question how that permit was approved. Anyways, that's the update there.
Like there is, in the minutes, it says, Kevin Millar of 78 Front Street want to know if the liquor license for 44 Front Street was on or off the meeting tonight. And the mayor responded, all action with 44 Front Street on hold due to attorney involvement in the matter. Questions on 44 Front Street include grant money received, not being zoned for business, it is R2. The problem since 2005 hasn't been resolved. That's what was in the minutes.
Thank you for sharing
Thank you,
that.
Sharon.
Anything else?
The little accident they had on Fox Street here a week or two ago. Where the trailer is parked, I got no problem with where the trailer where it's parked, but who's responsible for cutting all that crap down around the utility pole? Because you can't see anything that's there. Kids come running out of there, animals.
That's by the greenhouse, right?
Yeah,
It's the land bank.
I don't think it's on the land bank property though. I think it's
The other properties are.
the other property that I think is Legursky's.
Yeah.
That was a cat that started that, right?
Huh?
That was a cat that started that, right?
Yeah. Well, that's what he said.
Swerve for a cat in the trailer. Wow. But yeah, I know what you mean.
So I took a picture of it, just so you can see.
Check into it.
I have something to say.
Sure.
I'm so nervous.
No, you're fine.
I've never done this, so. My name is Cynthia Blunt. I live at 108 Halsted Avenue up in the Halsted Development. I have been for a long time I'm nervous. A long time speaking with code enforcement. I've done a lot of work up there for my home. I have neighboring people that aren't doing what they're supposed to be doing. It looks horrible. It brings down everything I've done. There's a 20-foot shipping container sitting in a driveway in an abandoned house right next door to me for 14 months. 14 months. The only time any work is done there is when I complain, and I don't let God do that. But that's only what you can see in the front. I mean, we're talking bare minimal. I called the storage unit, or the people that own that, for the site, and I asked them, why do you have a shipping container sitting in an abandoned property? Fast forward, I found out they're paying for that. They could have put all that money that has been coming into just gutter, something to stop devaluing what I've done. I've put in, close to $200,000, that's no lie, in my home repairs and building that up and doing, add-ons. I did garage, all kinds of stuff. Anyway, there are now rats up in the development. Nobody has ever seen them before. They're now there because people are now having chickens. And I have nothing against that, but we have all kinds of people that have chickens. I know that's how things are, but it's attracting all of these things. All right? And it's just, and because of the my partial that was behind me that has a wheat field growing on our adjacent property, then I have that house that's right next door to me, that's that. And then I have across the street, NICEAG keeps coming around every few years and cutting up the trees, right, to make it, for the lines and stuff. So there's this huge tree. When you come up the hill, and I live almost at the very top of the hill, a huge V, and you can see what, and it's just absolutely ridiculous. So with that said, all these things, and the neighborhood is turning over because it's aging out. Okay, I understand that. I think that's great. It brings in new life. However, people are getting really sloppy up there because they're not wanting to do anything, and they're parking illegal on the streets all the time. And I'm talking the wrong direction. Something that's easy. That's just a great big square that all you have to do is go. I'm sorry, I'm upset. Go around and park correctly. That's it. That's all you got to do, and yet it goes on all the time up there. That's just another thing that's just making it come down. It's bringing everything down. That's all I'm saying. So I just want to know, where's my help? When you're law-abiding, doing the right things, and where's the protection for that? Because I have gone all these routes, code enforcement, the district attorney's office, they were supposed to be taking something to court, which I thought was too much, right? It was way too much, and that's just ridiculous expense. I did not ever want to see that. But I've tried to talk to these people myself in a nice mannerism. Nothing gets done when you're nice. Nothing. So I just want some help. I don't know why they can have something that is mobile sitting there. I haven't seen down my street for 14 months. Just saying.
It's actually on the street.
No, it's in the driveway, but I can't see down the street. I mean, I took pictures, and I'm not even going to supply those because it's just ridiculous. It would be a waste of all this time. But I've tried everything that I can possibly try on my own, and I'm just fed up.
Yeah, I feel you.
Well, I mean, other than that, respectfully saying, what can be done? I know laws need to be changed. The laws are outdated, is what's happened here. The laws are way outdated. And because I know I'm part of the village, chickens belong out on the farms, okay? They do. I like animals, that's why I put in a $13,000 fence many years ago for my little teeny tiny dogs, right? Everybody else is just running around crazy up there. It's out of control. So what do I do?
Chickens aren't all we have.
are legal.
Huh?
Can't have
Chickens are legal.
I know. So here's the thing though, So I understand having maybe what you need for your household, but there's one house and they're very nice, everyone's not, well, for the most part. There's a business up there and it says Happy Hens, free range chickens, we're selling them for $3 per dozen. Happy Hens, up there on Woodlawn Avenue. That's a business. I don't think that's legal.
I think in New York State, there's agricultural laws, and if it's legal to have chickens, it's legal to sell eggs.
Oh my God, I'm just.
I hate to tell you, but you're right, when there's chickens, there's rats.
Yes, I've seen it.
Same with dogs, especially if you live on a river. You're gonna have, there's food and rats are good eating food, and rats are hard to control. And the only thing I can tell you, we have a rat service that comes and does the baits and everything. It's expensive, but it's worth it.
And this is.
You can't get rid of rats.
No, I know
You try
that.
to control rats. We have a lot of two-legged rats in town.
Yes.
Those are the hard ones to get rid of.
You know, I've had those thoughts myself many times. So,
Fat rats, some fat ones. They don't obey any of the laws. They don't care about laws.
Exactly.
They drive with no insurance.
So this is one of the reasons why I almost didn't come down, because I know that, because I've done my homework and tried to talk to people, and I know people are protected by these laws, but these laws are outdated. It's not fair. It's not fair.
Those are things we could change.
It's very unfair. And so when I was told that that's what you were supposedly working on with code enforcement, I didn't mean to do that. Do that a lot.
They did bring us a shipping container law.
Code enforcement, but with the money, and again, with the money that was invested, it's $140 for that particular unit, plus tax and delivery and pickup. So, if you do the math, and the 13th of this month will be 14 months, I put it on my calendar over a year ago, and after I called them, I had a 10 by 10 shed that I bought and made a platform for out back on concrete, the way you should. They can have a shed over there, because the only thing that I could possibly, what could be in a shipping container that's been there for 14 months that is more valuable than putting it inside the house? Or does that tell you how bad the house must be inside?
Drugs.
It's not drugs. I hope not.
Never know.
Well, that's very true. And then I saw two people there today, and I know them. And they left, just popped in, the air conditioning was on for a minute, so I took a video, but I'm not gonna share it because it's ridiculous. But they left without even, doing the lawn. And I thought, that's it, I'm going to that meeting tonight, that's it.
So there's nobody living actually in the house?
It's abandoned, nobody has lived there for a few years. Yes. But they are still paying, they're doing everything that they're supposed to do, they're paying their taxes, they're paying the stew. I've been all through this, believe me, they're doing all that. And I tried even talking with Rick personally myself. So, there's.
What address is this?
108, that house is 106 Halstead.
Kevin's on it.
Thank you.
See what we can do to help.
I live right beside it, 108 with a big white fence. Come knocking, ring a doorbell, I'm there. Thank you. I'll be quiet now.
Check in.
Thank you all for listening to my complaints, because I really don't like doing that.
No problem.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you. Sounds very valid.
I have a comment. It was my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, that the new owners of the Compelli were advised not to conduct business until things were resolved.
Cool guys are here. Nate. We'll know what letters we sent out.
I think you indicated he didn't hear you, I think.
Oh, is there somebody back there?
And the attorney's on TV.
Oh my God, no, this is going off.
What was the question?
The question was, were the new owners of the Pompelli House advised not to pursue business enterprises until this was worked out?
So I'm not going to comment on an issue that the code enforcement has issued violation notices on. This is going to be resolved, if it will be resolved, through the legal process, and I just won't be discussing it in open session. I understand that there's questions about it that the public might have, but as the attorney working on it for the village, my recommendation, and it has been to the village, is to not comment publicly on this matter going forward until it gets resolved.
Seems like everybody's hands are tied.
It does, it does.
And it just keeps going round and around. We're going, so maybe we could have like a 25th anniversary party on trying to get this resolved.
That's sarcasm, right?
Not really.
No.
If they had a place to park vehicles, and if they had some organization where that was a little receptive towards the neighbors. I have Owego across from my house. And I'll tell you what, the other night, the big shots from Sikorsky were there. And they didn't care where they parked. I couldn't get out of my driveway. My wife had to take, thank God she had a car that was out, but I called over to Owego to be nice about it. I didn't want to go over there and knock on their door. They don't answer the phone, and they're nice people. I have no problem with the RSS across the street. The cops are there on a regular basis. It never bothered me one bit. But, when people can't park in their own space, it's frustrating. Those people, if they're going to get a permit to operate a business there, they ought to make some concession, park at the Hickories, park at the, and some type of shuttle. I did a traffic study, Rodney will tell you, 30 years ago, because my sister had a business in town. The solution was leave town. That's what my sister did. It took her 20 years to listen to her brother, but that's what happened. Now, my daughter and my son-in-law, I don't know if they're fortunate or unfortunate, but they bought the property from my sister. And I'm going to tell you something. Parking is a problem in the village. And the main problem with my study was the merchants are the worst problem. We had an attorney who was a good friend of mine. Okay, he moved out of town, but every 2 hours, his secretary would go down and move her car. That's not good business. But that's what business we had, and now I'm not trying to throw my friend under the bus, but he wasn't the only ones. Van Horns did it, everybody on Lake Street did it, and it was just shuffle the car around, go move it. Oh, Bob doesn't give him a ticket because he's a friend, and there was a lot of nepotism with that whole deal. And it's, the village should make the art space some type of parking arrangement, put a kid in there to detail cars, and give people a ride around a little Kubota. You got Kubotas riding around to mow your lawn. You ought to have a 4-door Kubota and get people up and down the street. If they want tourism, that's one way of doing it. You have the foundry over there. You let a squatter for the last 20 years do whatever he wanted with property that wasn't his. He's a no good squatter. And as far as I'm concerned, the village doesn't have enough gumption to frickin' put their foot down and take care of what's over there. That's right next door. That could make a perfect location. That was my solution 30 years ago. But then I said to my sister, I'm going to go work for the gas company because the gas industry was coming to this area. In 2001, I worked from Owego to Wyalusing with my 2 dump trucks for the E-Corp, which was a company that took and changed the Quaker State field into a storage facility. They had the biggest gas well pipe the company from West Virginia put in the ground. It was 30-inch pipe with 3/4 of it, the wall was 3/4 of an inch thick. The thickest gas pipe that the company ever put in the ground for the compressor station. Guess what? There's gas here, boys, and it's coming from Pennsylvania. And what's really kind of sad is they're barking up the wrong tree in my world. I told my sister I'm gonna go work for the gas company. She moved to Hooper Road where there's a half an acre of land and there's plenty of parking. She didn't have to fight with the neighbors that has a bus stop that doesn't even have a bus stop. And Rusty knows what I'm talking about. How many times have I seen people pull up there when my sister was in business and he's out there patrolling it? And that, how long has it been since we've had a bus stop?
We still have the bus stop.
Yeah, but they stop on the other side of the street, Rusty. You know it and I know it.
That's when they're going south.
They don't stop in front of there. I haven't seen a bus stop in front of there in years. Can you get a ticket at your place? Because I don't know a person that's gotten a ticket there in quite some time. Am I right? Yes or no?
Those words don't answer your question.
Well, they should. This is getting to be a problem. I don't care. I'm just telling you what it's getting to be. And guess what? The people in the community, if those people over there, I've known Caroline for quite a long time. And did you ever have anybody park in front of your driveway when they're at a wedding over across the street?
Well, they can touch you out.
Yeah, it does. Guess what else it does? It makes it tough to go down the street when you're dodging people who've been drinking all night.
Mike, could we, transform some of the green spaces in the village into parking?
That's what I thought.
You know, and tell,
You got a brownfield over there that's just aching to have somebody come in there and take those millings that Freddie's got next door over there and make a nice little, those millings work fine, don't they, Freddie?
That's why they're there.
That's right. Right, but I'm just saying, there's your brownfield, you'll kill 3 birds with 1 stone.
no, but we would, I mean, if we did something like that, we would definitely have to require.
First you gotta evict them
businesses to
squatters.
shuttle their customers.
Right, that's the issue. Because the places we have are not close to anywhere. Got no real ample lot now.
Well,
Well,
I
they
mean,
take
it's
a
not about
shuttle.
the Belleville Lockwood. I mean, when there's events like that, they should be told that they have more than a certain number of people that they have to shuttle.
And I want everybody to know, I'm not knocking the Bevel Lock, but I don't know those people that well. I say hello when he walks the dog, Matt and Bree seem like very nice people, so don't, I said Bevel Lockwood, but the point I was trying to make is the same thing that Caroline and people on Front Street have. And that's simple, you know. And guess what? Everybody like to run a business out of their house. It's cheaper that way.
But just the population has just grown so much that, you know, it was created a long time ago in the village. Who owns that lot?
It's the Swedes, okay? I have a funny story. The foundry, the guy that started the foundry, Governor Dewey came to town when he opened up. He was a graduate from Lehigh University. He was a metallurgist. He was an extremely bright industrial man that knew how to run a foundry. Did very good. He saw the writing on the wall when it came to the cupola style of melting iron. So he spent millions of dollars going to an electric melt, okay? And what that is, instead of having a fire with coke and a furnace, you use electric furnaces that, you know, use a lot of electricity, but no pollution. He put a baghouse in before the EPA wanted a baghouse put in, like 10 years before. So he was very much in tune with the environment, okay? He cared about what was going on. They used to just take the cadmium and the lead and the barium and the pollution that was created from lead was, they used to have engine blocks. That's what they would melt down to make pig iron, it's called. Pig iron castings are made out of pig iron. So they would mix different chemicals. They would use engines from the lead gas in the 20s, 30s, 40s. Lead gas went out in the 70s. But all those engines that were melted there, the lead from the gas created an environmental nightmare. But what happened, I still think the county, and this is my opinion only, dropped the ball. There used to be 200 people that worked at that foundry. When that thing closed, half the people went on welfare. And if they had the right management people in there's a possibility they could have kept it going a little longer. But let's face it, everything went to China in that world. But they had John Bowen was one sharp guy that knew the foundry business. The company he went to work for is called Benton Foundry. It's in Benton, Pennsylvania, and they're still in business. Unfortunately, industrial pollution gets created when you have those kind of things, and that's what happened.
Do we have any other comment on village stuff?
I just had a question for the attorney, or maybe, did I hear correctly that violations have been cited for 44 Front Street?
Nate will tell you if we can answer that.
Well, that would be public record, and that's my recollection from the correspondence that I've had with Mick and Terry.
Okay, thanks.
Do we have any other public comment?
Yeah.
Do you know when it's gonna make it to the agenda?
That's up to the attorneys, I don't know. And the courts. You know how they go.
So it's not an issue that will come before the village board. It's a code enforcement issue. The village board doesn't actually play a role in code enforcement. It's up to the code enforcement officers.
I think they mean the.
Who does code enforcement work for?
They have independent authority from the village board to enforce the laws, but the village board doesn't dictate to the code enforcement office what the code officers do.
I'm not dictating, I'm talking about there's village zoning rules that are in place that this board needs to work with DPW and the code enforcement to make sure that the current laws are enforced. And that's not being done, clearly.
And we were really waiting on what the village board was gonna do regarding, the liquor license hearing and what they were gonna tell Albany. And that's what, it was tabled, and it's my understanding that it has to be brought back. Or are they just gonna not respond to Albany?
Right now, we've been directed not to respond, right, Nate?
Mike, you were pretty faint there.
Well, I was gonna say, she's asking if we're gonna respond to the liquor board about their liquor license. But I think we're directed not to respond right now, right?
Right. I mean, if I recall correctly, the application only mentioned them asking for a liquor license at the bed and breakfast, and it didn't mention any other use at that facility.
Right. So clearly everyone understands that the use is much more than a bed and breakfast. Everyone on this board, everybody in the DPW, everybody in code enforcement. This is like, with all due respect, your response is like covering your eyes and talking to me. Everybody knows what's going on there. And to not respond because the people are not putting on their application what they're actually doing, when everyone here knows what they're doing, is wrong. It's actually libel. And, you know, I understand the village's position. I understand that they've got a lawyer and they're pushing the village because historically things have gone on. But it's not just gonna go away. The village needs to enforce the current zoning laws through the code office now, not later, not after Albany gives them the approval, because that's what's gonna happen. What's gonna happen is you guys aren't gonna do anything, you're not gonna respond, also
If I
they're
can
gonna have liquor
interject,
license.
if I could interject for a second.
Sure.
A notice of violation is the village enforcing its law. So every enforcement action starts with a notice of violation.
Right.
And so those have been issued to the property issue here. That is why I'm also saying to the village board, I don't want them talking about it, because this is an ongoing matter that's subject to code enforcement action. And so there is action being taken, notices of violation were issued, and that is now currently being played out. And so, you know, there might not be a satisfactory update to you folks at every meeting because things are happening in the background that are subject to attorney-client privilege discussions, which again, I'm recommending that we not talk about in an open session at this point.
Fair enough.
Boundary history. Village history is code enforcement and zoning violations happen through citations in courts, not badges and handcuffs. All of which I don't control any of. Any other public comment? We're gonna slide Julie in. Sorry, James.
So if I want to share,
You should just be able to share your screen. I already gave you presenter thing.
and when I see it, I don't see it in that mode, I see it in presentation mode. But I mean, that's not the end of the world. Here, let me take it out of presentation mode and put it in again. Let me do this. Well, it can stay like that. You'd still get the job done. I'm not sure why it's doing that, but you can still see the slides. Okay, so thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk. I've done a fair amount of work over the last few years in the village as it relates to flood resilience and climate adaptation. And so I was asked if I could come and share some of that. This slide, where it takes more than a village, a roadmap for under-resourced communities seeking climate adaptation. Jamie Brichard, who is our private partner for the Climate Smart Communities Grant, and I gave a plenary session talk at the New York State Floodplain Managers meeting about the work happening in the village. And it's stuck there. I changed my slide. It's weird. My slide changed on my screen. So,
There you go.
oh, okay, so maybe I just need to not be in presentation mode. Okay, so it's pretty small. Can you make that bigger? I mean, I got this. Let's see. Maybe go a little smaller. So now, okay, this is very, let's see, we might clip some of it, but we'll see, we'll try to. So So y'all can see that's the village of Owego, right? And I am on the planning board, and we had a planning board training by the Department of State. And the Department of State, if you slide down, you can see that says model local laws to increase resilience. You go so you can see the top of the page. I think you might have to go. So the fact that we are the cover photo for the need for model local laws for resilience is like, I don't know how you wave the banner any more than that. I was shocked when I saw that. I didn't know that was happening. That's something that we'll get to in climate smart communities. But I want to back up a little and just kind of explain some of the background. So after the flood, Kevin was very involved in this. I'm sure some of you, all the people up on the board, were involved in this too. There was a Department of State funded long-term recovery strategy document. And that was a really good thing because you can't read that. But one of the things it says is participate in the community rating system. So in this Department of State funded document that's setting village direction, it said the village should be in the community rating system, which is a program of the National Flood Insurance Program that rewards communities that have model local laws for resilience, that do things beyond basic standards of flood resilience. And so we had this guiding document that said that we wanted to do this. So then Kevin worked for a really long time to get a community assistance visit. That means you get FEMA to come to the village and look at how prepared are you as a village to enter the community rating system. So how are you acting in accordance with the National Flood Insurance Program? So it takes a long time and a lot of effort, and Kevin gets that to happen. The meeting happens, and then the letter comes back. I regret to inform you that based upon the above unaddressed actions and potentially non-compliant floodplain development, participation in the CRS program is not a realistic option for the village at this time. So we got slammed on the community assistance visit. And FEMA said, you know, you're not responding, see ya. And then it sat. And then COVID happened. And then we all got sent home from COVID. I got sent home too. In doing some other work, I found out about this status of this very unresolved community assistance visit with FEMA. And so I said, all right, let me see if I can do something. And it became very evident to me that we just don't have the resources in this village to attack this. So I went to Elaine Jardine in the county, because she's a planner. We don't have a planner. I went to Ron Schmidt in the village, because he's a CFM, and we don't have a CFM. Hopefully we will soon, right? I went to the planner in the town, worked with Scott Phelps, who at the time was code enforcement, worked very closely with Jason Fenn from FEMA. So basically rallied troops from the county to get the expertise that we need to try to deal with this. So by February of 2021, it was this big, huge, long administrative review that over many hours, Ron Schmidt and I and Jason Fenn banged through. That's been submitted to FEMA. That's cleared. We had 5 NFIP violations that were identified in this cab. 4 have been cleared. 1 is ongoing. I had a conversation with representative of ongoing today, and the message is, I know I'm working on it. So there's acknowledgement. I have been working on this, trying to nudge the last one. I know we will get this resolved. I think we may, I'm hoping we don't have to apply pressure and that the right thing will be done, but we really need to clear this last violation. And we kind of can't mess around with it anymore. And the village may need to become a little more actively involved in nudging that along.
Can you say more about the violations? What kinds of things
Kinds of things are lack of flood vents if a building is too low. They thought that there were, not seeing floodplain development permits when in fact floodplain development permits were issued. One structure was a tiny little structure that shouldn't have been rebuilt, but it's very tiny, so it was deemed like it's not gonna knock over the whole apple cart. The one last violation is a big one, and it has to be cleared. But so there are a number of things, but all of the other ones, you know, it was a matter of, a lot of them were just finding the proper documentation and evidence to tell FEMA, no, it really is okay. They just were missing information. The last one, somebody actually had it. So just a point on flood insurance. People really need to understand this. In 2021, we had 391 flood insurance policies in this village. Now, in August of 2023, we have 292 flood insurance policies in this village. I estimated we have 1,100 buildings in the floodplain. That means we have 800 uninsured buildings out of 1,500 buildings in this village. So if we don't address flood resilience in this village, there's enormous risk to the viability of this village if we have another 2011. And we will have another 2011. We don't know when it's going to be. Nobody's got a crystal ball, but we need to prepare, and we need to take action of many sorts. So the rest of this is going to be me talking about those actions that we're working on. So I hit a brick wall after the CAB visit because I got to the point where now we got to this one last violation. I was back working full time. I didn't know what to do. And so I said, I have to find a partner because I tapped the village resources, the town resources, the county resources. I just don't have enough resources. I don't know how to get forward. I want the village and the community rating system, but it's a big job. This is not a simple fill out a form. This is a very heavy administrative load with potentially large gain. And so when I presented last year at the New York State Floodplain Managers meeting, my goal was to find a partner, and I found my partner. And that's Jamie Bouchard from Judas. And with Jamie, so it's like, Jamie, how do we find money? We need money. How do we get in the community rating system? How can we find funding to do that? And it's actually a big issue with FEMA that it is hard because we're a little under-resourced village. If you're big, expensive land, you have all of this staff who can put all of this manpower on it. And wealthy communities get wealthier, and poor communities get poorer, and it really sucks. And that's not how it's supposed to work. So what she identified was the Climate Smart Communities program as a New York State program that could potentially bring in this funding to help us get to CRS. And so that New York State Floodplain Managers meeting was in April. This proposal was due in July. That's not a lot of time. But the board was very cooperative. I thank the board for that. They passed the Climate Smart Communities pledge. They agreed to pay the contractor who gave us the absolute fire sale deal to write the proposal because she believed in what we were doing here. And we got the grant. So we got $125,000 that was awarded in January for Climate Smart Communities. I got a shout out to Laura because this would not have been were it not for Laura, because she was the one when I was like, I need this, how do I get that? So she deserves a shout out. So we're one of those little dots on the Climate Smart Communities. If you look, see where all the communities are? They're in the wealthy part of the state and they're in big cities because they have the resources, right? So we're trying to make the model in this state for how the little villages that don't have all those resources get to play with the big boys. So there's the Climate Smart Communities program. There's the Clean Energy Communities program. If anybody knows Jerry Wiley, she is the absolute advocate for that. And we've already gotten a $5,000 grant for that. We're very close to a $10,000 grant for that. There's the community rating system, but all of these systems, all of these programs are point systems, and you get so many points, you get grants, but they all overlap. So the strategy that we're taking is to look at all of these programs, find the commonalities, figure out what actions that are of interest to the village we can implement to do the right thing and get more grant money for the village. So Barton and Lejudas has a 5-year plan for climate smart communities. So for the first year is just looking at clean energy, climate smart community rating system, and looking across all of those programs to say, where do we want to focus? What actions mean the most? And then in year 2, we implement those actions and in parallel really start looking at CRS compliance. By year 3, it's to get in the CRS. And when I showed this graph to FEMA, they were like, thank God, I hope they didn't think they were going to get in CRS in year 1, because this is a long process. But it's a 5-year grant. I understand, I'm impatient, but I understand we can't do this tomorrow. And so by year 3, we get in the CRS. By year 4, we're increasing points, and then hopefully by year 5, the last year of the grant, we're upping our levels, so we're increasing our flood insurance discount. Flood insurance discounts for anybody in the village will go down between 5 and 40%, depending on how far we move through the community rating system program. My goal, if we could get to 20%, I think we'd be cranking. It starts at 5%, and as you get points, your discount increments in 5% increments. So Climate Smart Communities has a task force, and the role of the task force is to set directions, right? So Barton and Lejudas, we have a private partner who's going to say, hey, you could get a lot of points for this, but then the task force has to say, well, do we care about this in the village or do we not? Like, no, I don't want you to look there, I want you to look here. And we haven't officially done this yet, but what will happen, because we just started this spring, it's quite new, is that the task force will officially make policy recommendations to the board. And what I would like to start doing is regularly at some interval, just presenting as a task force chair, presenting, this is where we are, this is what we're working on, this is what we're recommending. So this is your task force. So I'm the chair. We've got planners. We have Elaine Jardine and Joanne Lindstrom as planners. Kevin Millar, who is a font of an amazing amount of knowledge and commitment, is there. Wendy Walsh, hugely important to have Tioga County Soil and Water there. Rick Voigt is a local hydrologist who's actually done a lot of hydrology work in the area. Very important to have him there. Brian Goodrich is County GIS, really useful. Jerry Wiley is our energy extraordinaire person. Dr. Colin Evans is a local boy who is a climate scientist at Cornell. He just wrote an article on the unified solar permit that kind of got buried in the penny saver, but maybe somebody caught it. Laura is our board rep, and Ashley Seafried is our Southern Tier 8 representative. So we really have a good cross-section of the skill set that we need to take on the actions. Another connection is Cornell. So Jamie Benucci is a landscape architecture professor, and one of the things that we put in the Climate Smart Communities grant, we need in-kind service hours. And one of the in-kind in lieu of just us adding a match, right? That was a 50-50 match. So we get $25,000 a year from the state, but we have to put $25,000 a year in. But the village is only putting in $10,000 in cash, and $15,000 is coming in kind contributions. So that's basically all people time. And one of the people time projects will be Jamie's students will propose landscape plans for Kim's house. And so this fall, she'll have a team of students who will imagine what her house would look like 3 feet higher. And if Mark and Phoebe's house gets selected for elevation, they can do that for her. If there are just other people in the village who want to elevate, if they want to let me know, we'll get students to work on elevations for them. Ashley Seafried is another really important person. So there's an organization that's called Southern Tier 8, which is a regional organization. And so she, for Climate Smart Communities, is our Southern Tier 8 person. They wanted to take her away, and she wouldn't leave us because we're doing stuff. And so she asked to keep us, and they let her. And so she picks one community a year for a climate adaptation plan, and she picked us. And this will get us a bunch of points for Climate Smart Communities, and it's just a good forward-looking village-wide plan on where do we really want to go for this community, where do we get the most bang for our buck. So in actually the September Climate Smart Communities Task Force meeting will be about this, if anybody wants to attend, they can get in touch with me. So another person is Mike Brown, who is the regional, I'm sorry, that's okay. It happens. Yeah, like happy music.
I turned the volume off before, I don't know why.
No problem. I call that the church button because my mother has to turn it off in church. So Mike Brown is the Clean Energy Communities Coordinator, and he's working with Kim now on a benchmarking study. If that gets done, we're, I think, at or really close to a $10,000 just cash-free, money grant through Clean Energy Communities. So we'll have $15,000 to spend from Clean Energy Communities. He's a Cordell guy. He's a PhD scientist who just wanted to do something more in the field to help people. So he's great. So we have him on our side. So there's a lot of people. Other important stuff. So did the generators get approved? Did the two get approved? Okay, so if the two got approved, it's a sewer and the backup generator for water, backup generator for sewer. Do you know DISHA said yes? Does anybody know? Did you sign the contract on the generators yet? That's a good question. Okay, but it seems like that may go, like those seem like they're gonna go.
Yeah.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, there was a couple that were good, a couple not.
I know some were rejected, but I thought the water and sewer were still in there.
Yeah.
It's the elevation, and those are not cheap generators. Like these are hundreds of thousands of dollars generators. Kim's house was just approved. We'll find out about the other elevation. This was really cool, and I really encourage the village to do this because normally it's only normally it's 75% federal, and the homeowner, the municipality, has to cough up a quarter. But they had extra money, so it's 90% federal. The village only coughs up 10%. So if those all come through, that's about $900,000 of funding that's coming probably next year. Oh, I already did that. Jamie's doing the house. So I tell you that this is important. So this is the National Park Service's advertisement for federal guidelines on flood adaptation, and it's my house. And my house is the advertisement for the federal guidelines because I had a really good landscape architect. Kudos to Mike Cox. And it ends up that it's really, and if I give talks at conferences, I say it's all about the landscaping, right? Historic elevation, any elevation, it's all about the landscaping. I've seen my house in many presentations that I didn't expect it to pop up as. Yeah, National Park Service called me and like, can we use your house? I'm like, why are you calling me? I didn't know about my house. But they did. So, Army Corps of Engineers, we just kicked off a $300,000 grant with the Army Corps of Engineers last week, and that's to study our stormwater system, which needs a lot of help, and to look at how do we flood mitigate buildings in the floodplain. And normally, the village would have to pay half of that, right? So normally it would be about $150,000 of federal money and $150,000 of village money, but it was 100% federal money. that funded this because the village of Owego has been declared disadvantaged by the state and by the federal government. And so section 8119 amendment of the Water Resources Development Act of 2022 said that the planning assistance to states program, the match is waived for disadvantaged communities, right? So there's federally a Justice 40 initiative, if anybody's heard that term, Justice 40. It's about 40% of climate adaptation funds going to disadvantaged communities, which is what we want, because we just don't want rich Westchester getting all the money, right? So they're trying, and we are the first grant in the country to get that 100% funding. So that's pretty cool. So this is actually our state disadvantage designation. This is our federal disadvantage designation. And it says the expected loss rate to flood is 98%, as in we're at 98% more risk than any other municipality in the country. Expected population loss rate is 91%, projected flood risk 96%. So we've got to come to grips with the river and the creek because we're too beautiful and we're too valuable to risk. So the other thing is right now there's a hazard mitigation plan update going on, the 5-year HMP update that Barton and Lejudas, who's our partner for Climate Smart Communities, is actually the private partner for that. And so the good thing is that sometimes hazard mitigation plan updates are just a document that you have to do that gets thrown in a drawer and nobody ever uses. And the point is absolutely not to do that. And if we can get all of these climate adaptation provisions in this plan, when they're in the plan, you can write the grants to do them. So right now, it's a matter of working to make sure that all of the flood mitigation efforts that we need get in that hazard mitigation plan so we have foundation to write grants. But you don't win them all, right? So just for full disclosure, so I wrote a Water Resources Institute grant that we didn't get, a Nature Conservancy grant that we didn't get, an Cornell Atkinson summer internship program grant that we didn't get. Those all had Cornell collaboration in them, but the good thing is those 3 were the little ones, and the 3 that we got are the big ones. So the little ones that we lost maybe totaled $100,000, but what we got was 1.3 million. So in terms of the longer term vision, so now we have the Army Corps grant. That's a planning study. It's not a stamped drawing, but it's saying here's how you would redesign your stormwater system. We asked them to do it in a phased way because this is a huge, big, expensive thing. But once we have that, we can start writing the big, huge grants. Army Corps gave us $60,000 that we didn't even ask for to help us do that. Because I said, look, this is what we're gonna base longer term implementation grants on. So they gave us more money for that. The hazard mitigation plan gets done. We're due to have a comprehensive plan update, right? So the last one was 10 years ago. They should be done every 10 years. If the village decides to do a comp plan update, then what you have to do is you have to take all that adaptation, flood resilience language in the hazard mitigation plan, and you got to get it in the comp plan. Because then if it's in the comprehensive plan, then it's another vehicle that you have to make sure that we can get funding to take care of these things. And then my last slide is just as the task force chair, going forward, I will start providing updates. I don't think I need to do it every month because a lot of these actions, they're not like really quick actions. They're gonna take time. But I think we'll just figure out what the right interval of time is to share with you what's going on. That's it. Thank you.
Or not.
I got, have a great session. Where did the active, oh wait,
Is there any
there it
questions
is,
for
okay.
Julie?
Okay, no, I got it.
We got that list of links.
There, okay. We're good.
The lawyer's still getting paid?
Oh, yeah. Anybody have any questions for Julie? From the board?
Thank you.
Sign in there, but there's lots of questions about that.
Okay. No, I'm good.
So, now, we'll talk about the James, because he probably wants to go to bed. I don't know where we want to start. I got them all listed.
The change orders would be the easiest.
That's the, I like these. You want to explain them? Hopefully these guys will vote, then I can sign.
I hope you guys, read the change orders. We had them, I mean, everything they've done up until now really had to be done. There were, a lot of options with that. The big one was, the adjustment of the laterals off of the sewer, which we've talked about in the past. And then, I think the second biggest one besides that was the light pole that we added in Park Street for the deteriorating light poles. So, essentially, we will have used the entire, change order allowance that we initially set and, a little bit of money that was left over from, the underbid, but we are currently still, no excess out of the village pocket as of these two change orders. So, and both has done a really great job at sticking within the means as far as going forward. Even with these large sums of money going into these parking areas, there is a lot of little stuff that we could add up. And both are doing a good job at doing what they can within the ordinance that we give them. That's pretty much it as far as those change orders. I recommend that you approve them.
We need to take any action on that?
Yeah, you're gonna need a motion to approve. So I can sign. Or do you have any other questions for me? Now, so you have to ask me.
Oh, crap.
Yeah, the motion's already on.
Okay, I resolve upon the motion, to approve, two change orders for the DRI Phase 2 project totaling $23,084.58. Bohar?
Both are.
And $10,941.83, for Eco Electric for $12,142.75.
Second that.
Any discussion on those two change orders? Everybody's clear on what they're for? What you said. Yeah.
And I listed them in detail if you want to see. Sure.
I got them right here. Rusty?
Yes.
Laura?
Yes.
Dave? Yes. Mary?
Yes.
Charles?
Yes.
The second thing I recommend is the, CME contract.
Yeah, that's another easy one.
Yeah.
That I don't know.
So CME is a testing agency, so whenever you do, construction work, you need a third party, not the engineer, not the contractor, to test your concrete, to check your soil, to make sure everything's being installed correctly. CME is someone we've worked with in the past. We did request, numbers from 3 firms that we had testing, CME is, right out of Portsmouth. They also offered you guys a a rate contract, so you only pay for the number of times you call it back. But that also means that we can keep this contract through all of the DRI projects, hopefully, and then just continue that if you want to do it. And they are also an MWBE, which means we'll get credit towards that for the grant as well.
And these costs are reimbursable through the DRI, right?
I don't think so. They're not included in the DRI stuff.
Hold on, what's that mean? So that, it's not in the DRI, so this is a cost to the village?
Yeah, it's gotta be outside of that, otherwise there's a conflict of interest.
Okay. So do we have any numbers for this or any such thing?
Yeah, it'll be throughout the process. So right now, all you're doing is agreeing to the rates that CME has proposed. So as I put those testing stuff in, I'll send you and say, hey, CME has to go to the contract. Here, it's gonna be this many days of testing. It'll be a couple $100. I think the rates are like between $200 and $400 a day or something like that. And it'll be a couple days of work here and there throughout the projects.
And how did their rates compare to the other bidders?
They're better.
Better.
Better than the other ones, and they also responded. Quicker than the other ones, so.
That's a good checkbox.
Yeah.
This proposal says it's for the Marvin Park improvements in the downtown parking. It doesn't say for the whole project.
I would have to clarify that with them. The waterfront, I don't know we'll need much testing, because it's mostly plantings, regrading, there's nothing really that you test as part of that. Parking, garage, or Marvin Park parking.
What about the fire station?
Firehouse won't have any material testing, it's all restoration and then the roofing. So you won't have anything as far as material testing for that. So yeah, maybe it is just the two, yes, that would make sense.
What about like any concrete and stuff for the kayak launch and things like that there?
You won't need any concrete for that. No. Yeah, and there won't be any, we're not doing any soil issues or anything like that. A lot of those are landscaping type projects, even the kayak launch. The amount of concrete that they're pouring there is gonna be significantly under the limit. They get to pour 10 to 20 cubic yards usually per pass. And so I think we have 2 benches that have small concrete pads, and that's it. We're not doing anything significantly structural. The actual launch section, we're probably gonna do with stone and timber, kind of laid into the actual launch area.
Who did the testing for the contamination found at the art park site? Was it the same company?
No, or two, O'Rourke did the testing, so that's a different type of testing. That's environmental testing as opposed to material testing, which is, so environmental testing is against for contaminants and hazardous materials. It's more safety related, whereas CMA testing is quality of the construction materials, make sure nobody's using anything that is unacceptable in terms of construction use.
So they checked out the structure of the walls to make sure everything was built to spec.
For your guys' stuff, that would be more special inspection. This is more like saying that, okay, they submitted a concrete mix design, which I approved, stamped it, made sure it was right. But they're gonna make sure that the concrete that actually comes to the site and is poured is the correct concrete as well. So they'll take cylinders, they'll break them and make sure that they hit the strength requirements. And if they don't, the contractor will be required to tear all that out and reinstall it.
Seems like all these testing for this should be already in place.
No, this is a new material that's being put in to pass through tests. What he's talking about.
Yeah, so even before they get to the site, they have to pass, DOT standards and everything for their laboratories. It's just another layer of defense for you guys, because in the end, when all that testing is done, all the paperwork is certified, someone has to be on site to say that they put in what they said they were gonna put in. That's where the testing comes in.
Did you ever have any situations where they didn't put in what they said they were gonna put in? I mean, how often does that come up?
A lot.
Really?
A lot. A lot of contractors try to move things along.
Oh, but then,
A lot.
well,
It's a good barter that you're paying for this, because he's gonna tell you what they did, and then he's gonna do it by the law.
I mean,
It's
it's one of
highly
those things
recommended
that's
to do it.
sort of self-checking itself. they know you have it, they're not gonna try anything.
It's very.
Has the boring been done on the Lakes, or Court Street lot?
What's that?
Have they tested the Court Street lot?
They don't need to do any testing on that lot. They had a little bit of concrete under the edge, which I approved for that, but since it's not a structural item, it doesn't really need to be done. We do have aprons that will need to be done on like the Church Street lot has like an extra apron that's being done. The asphalt comes from the same plants, so as long as we get a test from some of the asphalts, it should be, the same as the, what's gone through under Court Street.
Do they have to do a daily test then, so it's a blacktop?
Not daily, they usually do it per quantity, so for however many square feet or cubic tons that you're bringing in. Testing every little thing could get very expensive.
Yeah.
So you try to spot check them, they don't know when you're coming, so it's more motivation for them to just do it right all the time throughout.
I read in the contracts that like you have to schedule them at least Tuesdays before noon ahead of your project, like or else there's like a big charge for calling them up the day of and needing, your stuff done and things like that. And yeah, about half days and
Yeah, so all they're really doing is trying to protect themselves. It's really on me to say, to coordinate with the contractor and say, hey, you need to get your schedule to these guys so they can be out there one of the 2 days that you're planning before. If for some reason sketch gets pushed, something's out of that, it doesn't line up, that's on the contractor to cover those cost differences. Or if I fail to meet those scheduling demands or whatever, that's on us as the engineer. The main thing I want to remind you about the CME contract is that you're not forced to pay anything upfront. There's no maximum or minimum. It'll be up to me to coordinate with you guys the number of testing. And I can get you guys a rough estimate of how much I expect for you to pay over the course of the projects. It's usually a relatively small amount. That's why it's a reimbursable.
Okay, so I motion to approve the CME associate proposal dated July 27, 2023 for construction materials testing and special inspection services.
I'll second that.
Any other discussion on the proposal? Are we good?
Thought that Fran already made that motion.
No.
That was the other one.
Okay. We'll go Rusty.
Yes.
Laura?
yes.
Dave? Yes. Fran?
Yes.
Charles?
Yes.
And yes. You want to talk about the other stuff?
So this is the last item, I believe, the Mark Park contract. So, Streeter Construction, who has, and by extension, Geico and J. Graham, who have demonstrated qualifications and are the low bidders for the Market Park projects, have extended our previous bid time to 45 days. That time will be up by the 14th, I believe. So this is the last meeting prior to that. Our previous meeting, we decided to have until today for any final decisions to figure out anything, whether or not to accept the Marvin Park bids. Streeter has been very accommodating in terms of discussing options to the village as far as how to handle the money, since we still need state approval for the transfer of funds, which could take a few months. Julie is working on that, but Streeter has laid out a plan for us, with my assistance to break this up into multiple phases. The idea being that the first phase will be completely up to the funding that is currently set. And then worst case scenario, if something goes wrong and for some reason the state decides not to help transfer that money from the other projects, to allow us to cut the scope at that point, and therefore the village would no longer be on the hook for that overage as far as that.
And we have that in an email.
So while not legally binding, it does show, Streeter's really gone the extra mile to try to show that they want to do this project for you guys, and that, you guys should move ahead with it.
And they also think, we don't want to put our, time on them, but they think they can get the phase one as far as what we can afford with the money we have already from the DRI done by Thanksgiving-ish.
Yeah. So the areas that they're kind of dictating to break up is, for phase one would be our courts, would be the bathroom, would be the fence, and the sign. So that
I need to write all this down so we don't get close over.
Yeah, I mean, it is an email, but,
I don't have that such a thing.
the
It's in my box.
The bathhouse?
Yep.
The tennis court, or the courts, the
Yes,
pickleball.
yep.
The entranceway. And the fence.
No playground.
Well, the playground is gonna be fine tuned.
That's what I'm asking, yeah.
So they're gonna try to squeeze it in on the first phase if they can, but that's like where our line is.
The things you said and possibly playground.
Yeah, and possibly playground.
You said bathhouse, the courts, the entranceway, the fence, you mentioned the sign.
Yeah, the entranceway, the sign.
That's the same thing?
Yeah, so like right in the Market Park, it'll be the main sign, the refurbishing of the pillars, yeah, and a little bit of lighting. The entranceway is kind of one item that we have listed, but most of it is minuscule compared to the price of the.
What's the next phase, James?
Phase two will be the crosswalk.
Okay.
The fence and the tread. I got a walking path. Or not the fence, the skate park and a walking path.
Crosswalk, okay. Skate park. And what was the last one?
The walking path.
Which connects Canal Street to the path.
Walking path once you get into the fair.
Yeah,
Walking path from Canal on into the fairgrounds to connect to the other.
Yeah, so that crosswalk was kind of affiliated with the walkway, but because of the grade.
Those two pieces, crosswalk. Okay. Have another question. What was our budget originally for the whole project that we were guessing at?
$1,287,000.
Okay.
So $1,400,000.
What's that? So it went from 1,287?
No, 1.4 was the contracted amount, and so that includes
Minus the design.
Yeah.
So 1.4 is
That's the whole amount.
everything, okay. And now what's the bid from?
Construction amount is what James said.
Yeah, the construction amount, which is what matters, is 1.287.
Okay.
That's million. And
So-
then the actual amount that came in is 2.4.
The bid is 2.4 million? So it's 800,000 or approximately more than what we thought.
Yeah.
So what would
And do we have a breakdown? I'm sorry, but I don't have any of this information. Do we have a breakdown did they break down the things in that?
They won't break it down into detail until there's a signed contract. That's pretty standard with contractors. Otherwise, they risk releasing their proprietary information and then you guys not taking the contract.
So we have to accept the contract and they'll break it down for us.
Yeah, so what
That
typically.
just makes it difficult for us to know what things that we might want to leave out if we don't know how much the price is of something. $2.4 million for a skateboard park and a bathroom and some other things. Boy, that's a chunk of change.
We're over twice the budget amount. We had 1.28 for
For the whole thing.
for the whole thing, and it's come in at 2.4. Seems quite unreasonable.
Well, it took so long to get to this point, because materials go up. I understand that.
For
kids.
Pre-COVID.
Yeah, I've heard that.
Yeah, if they stop vandalizing it, I'd feel a lot better about it.
But our budgets were 4 or 5 years ago, pre-COVID. We got lucky with the parking lots that they came in and what we thought.
Well, the other thing is the parking lots are very down and simple, like there isn't much that can change with that, short of the asphalt prices. For the park stuff, honestly, if you look at what was awarded for the actual description, there's still another 3 or 4 things in there. I mean, even the playground, we cut that down to an absolute minimum with it. I mean, if you guys, and you really think about it going back, if only phase 1 is approved and cut all that, we got a bathhouse, a tennis court, and an entryway really, and some fence. I mean, it's unfortunate
That
that
doesn't seem like much for $1 million too.
I agree, money just doesn't go quite as far as it used to, which is why I've kind of been pushing for the state. We want this to really be seen as a transformative project, the way it's supposed to be done. We want the state to give us every dime they'll give us. It's really quite a balancing act. And what I'll tell you is that you guys are not the only community that is seeing this from the DRI. You know, I firsthand in my project in Elmira, you know, I've really struggled with that. But, you know, Julie Sweet, our contact at the state, has said, you know, they're talking about ways of trying to get some extra money to pool in for communities like ours that are, you know, putting all this effort in, going to it, and then by the time it gets to bid, it's just nothing quite comes through as you know, much as it should do. But
You mentioned asphalt prices.
yeah.
Whose asphalt is that?
I'm sorry. There's trouble.
Just want to see if everybody's still awake.
There was time for that.
It always provides us with
Is it 8:30?
Yep.
that. Yeah.
We're halfway there.
Okay. Yeah, more or less.
Mayor, why don't you make a proposal?
So now we just make a motion to accept it. So we need to,
As specified by. Huh?
yeah.
It hasn't been approved by the state, but then, you know, you've had questions and you're asking, can we use this money at that park?
Well,
And you don't have an answer yet. How can we
so
approve a $2.4 million contract if we don't know
yeah, the budget.
anything about it, you know?
So what James was trying to explain was we are approved for $1.287 million. And our contractor has agreed that once we sign the contract, they will cut the contract to be $1.87 million.
Essentially, we'll issue a change order that will reflect a scope difference for phase 1 and phase 2.
So one of the
If
ways
state-
you make,
Then if the state 6 to 8 months from now says that we can take a bunch of other money from a different project, throw it in with this to complete this project, then the contractor has agreed to do it after they finish the first phase that we can afford now.
Yeah. One thing to note with that process is there is a little bit of additional fee to that due to mobilization and, you know, starting and stopping. It always goes through that. The alternate is to decline the bids, rebid it, and hope we get better bids with enough time to build it before we lose the money next year.
so one of our, obviously one of our options talked about is to approve phase 1.
Well, we have to approve the whole thing, and then next meeting, we do a change order to cut it to phase 1, basically.
That's the way we have to do it.
You don't have approval for the whole thing. If you approve it and you start building stuff with the phase 1, and then you find out from the state that you aren't completing a transformative project like they told you, which they've already told you that it's not, it doesn't have all these elements in it from the phase 2. We're building something when we already know they said it's not what they would fund.
They'll fund up to the 1.8, but
They'll fund the amount that was already approved for Marvin Park. Essentially what we're calling phase 1. That will be approved. They can't change their mind with that. They can't take that away.
the
state can't.
Yeah. There's no way they can do about that. I mean, the bids are the bids. We've gone through, all the design process, and the bidding. It's, we have all the documentation. We update Julie on a weekly basis. We've done everything down to the absolute number for this grant project. Now, Streeter has in good faith said, we'll cut this scope so that you guys can afford it, and if you get the rest of the money from the state, we'll do the rest of the work.
So what kind of guarantee do we have if we take their bid, that we will be obligating for phase one, and there will be a change order, and we're not necessarily obligating for phase two? This is absolutely guaranteed. How does this work?
The level of guarantee that you have is the email that they provide,
Which is
doesn't sound too guaranteed to me. I don't know.
For me, they could go back on it, but they would.
It would be extremely bad.
Your weekly notes of your meetings, it's really sweet, like you don't even say that you had a conversation about it. Information in there, that stuff that's going on, that there was a request.
Well, we can't submit the request until the board makes a decision to do something. So like you guys have to say, Julie, we want to do this or we want to do that, and that decision hasn't progressed.
Well, at the last meeting.
We did last meeting with the extra money, which Julie's working on that.
At the last meeting, it was presented that we were canceling the art park and putting funds from that over to Marvin Park, but nothing.
But we don't get to decide that. The state gets to decide that, and that's going to be
So essentially what we decided last meeting with that was that the village, that's the direction that the village wanted to go. So now that you guys have made the decision for that, the ball is put into the state's court. Julie is starting to move that process along, but that will take months. Like it won't be ready for this construction season. And we're trying to get things built.
Might not even be ready for next construction season.
I mean, I don't wanna.
Julie's already talking extensions.
I don't know what I want to do. I don't know what I'm going to decide. I don't know what it is. It's not about me, but I'm a little bit uncomfortable sitting at this meeting, and this is mostly brand new for me to know that we're going to move $1.5 million like that. I mean, that's just a little uncomfortable for me on this stuff.
We voted on that last meeting.
Yes, we did, didn't we? Except I couldn't get because I was away, and I haven't been able to get a copy of the tape of that meeting yet, so I don't actually know anything that happened last week. And also, there are no details anywhere about any of the things that happened other than the motion was made.
What I'll say,
I'm just telling you, I don't know.
our Friday meetings that I have with James are open, that's something, invitation out to everybody, and nobody joins but me, so.
Yep. Just telling you, I'm a little uncomfortable with that. So how difficult, I know it's always put it off and bring it back. How difficult is it for us to, can we bid 2 phases on this?
So if we do go that route, yes, but we have to deny the bids that we have.
We'd have to deny this bid, we'd have to go right back out again, we'd have to bid it again, and bid 2 separate phases, the first phase and the second phase, each for about $1.2 million.
But we don't get to say that.
We don't get to say that, but that's what we're sniffing at. Okay.
So those bids could come in double and triple.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The longer we wait, potentially the worse it gets.
The longer it takes, the more cost.
I don't know if
Right.
I don't know if it could get worse than $2.4 million, but we can.
It could get better, it could get worse.
Ultimately, you guys could do this. I would have to go back to the drawing board as far as that. Off the cuff, if you guys were to go that route, I would probably strongly recommend breaking this up. We tried to do that to save, essentially mobilization costs and stuff, so that you don't have multiple contractors coming in and having that 4 to 5% on all of these little small projects. Maybe having the option to kind of go through that is, the problem is, a contractor's not gonna want to bid on something that's a la carte, where they come in and say, okay, well, I might only get 10% of this project that they bid.
Those are all the.
But so,
all the pieces.
But ultimately, that's where we're at this point.
Could you read that letter that was sent from the contractor?
This is that email you're talking about?
Yeah, so he basically says that we asked him about the worst case scenario, right, where we accept the award and then we don't get the money for the phase two. And he said there'd be no choice but to cut the scope. So, and that they are willing to do that.
Freddie, tell them what happens with bids that get towards the end of the season.
So he said,
Yeah, they go up.
so he said, if phase two work cannot go forward, it would be nullified. But then there would be a little extra cost, because they're thinking they're gonna be done with the phase one work roughly Thanksgiving-ish. So if we don't get the money in place by then, so they start right on the phase two stuff, they'd have to take all their stuff back home and bring it back. So there's some cost to that. Which we have if we bid it as two separate things anyway.
Okay, so what you're asking me to
Pricing
do,
up at 3 or 4, if that was the case.
so what you're saying is, or suggesting is that we accept, them as currently stipulated, and if the state does not recommend that we transfer that funds, then, there'll be no, then they will just say, okay, you don't have it, we won't do it.
The first thing,
It has a mind of its own.
the first thing I will do, having your guys' approval for this, the first thing I will do is get the signature from the mayor, submit the contract to Streeter with the change order identifying scope 1 and scope 2. So my ideal situation would be there will never be a point where one contract is signed and not the other. Again, arguably, Streeter could sign that and send it. It's just bad business practice. There's not, like, nobody in the state would work with them again if they did that. It would be a death sentence to their career. And I've worked with Streeter on some of the Elmira DRI, and they've had a lot of these same issues and everything. To say that they had all those problems and they're still willing to come in and try to work with a small community on a lot of these DRI projects, I mean, I feel like that speaks to something to their character.
The Streeter of Elmira.
Streeter Associates, yeah.
Yeah.
They built a compressor station on the south side of Owego. They did a lot of work. That was a huge project. And if you drive by there on Robinson Road, what you see is a big flagstone building. And that was part of the E-Corp deal with the gas storage.
So it's up to you guys, how you wanna move forward. But tonight we need to do something for the bidders, because their bids expired. So we either need to accept the bid and then do the change order like we talked about, or we need to reject the bids and have James bring it up and rebid it this winter for next spring. In hopes that we can get it done before it, because our DRI money, if we don't use it, goes away December 31st, 2024. Unless they give us an extension.
First,
I
I'd like to make a,
get that, Mike, and I'm just giving you my opinion, because that's what we're gonna do before we make the decision. I don't wanna spend $2.4 million for that. And I know the people I talk to all over the village don't wanna spend $2.4 million for that. But that doesn't mean we're not gonna do it, but I'm just telling you what my constituents tell me. That's not the best, and I would love to, I know time's away and we can't get this all done. And I would love to be able to have the conversations, which we can't hardly ever do anyways, with the state to find out what can we do with that, all that extra money? What are our options rather than necessarily just this option? But maybe it's all too late.
So we've had those conversations.
Yep. The state, and what's the state told us?
So Julie won't commit to anything.
So there you go, so they won't tell us.
She personally thinks our best idea is to do what we're doing.
Okay.
Complete one project instead of half do 6 different projects.
Can I chime in for a moment? Julie's given us that opinion, and not because she's intentionally trying to hold anything back, but that because this has to go all the way up to the comptrollers, which means there's 3 or 4 divisions in between her that have to do this. And, you know, she's already been advocating on our behalf for trying to make this money work in one form or another. Moving money around in these contracts isn't a super easy task to do. So when you say, you know, what are our options? Well, there's not much. I mean, there's kind of like A and B. That's really it.
So there's a couple issues. A is it has to get approved all the way up to the comptroller.
Yep.
B is there's a little rule in DRI that you can't give a project more money than it asked for. So they're gonna have to override that rule if they do this.
I understand that, although I will tell you, when we even started this DRI whole situation, the whole process, and there were a bunch of rules, and I watched the DRI committee and people break rule after rule after rule. I'm just saying, I watched those rules that you had to do this, you had to do that, and boy, and I watched them break them whenever they felt like it. That being said, and Julie knows this system and this game real well, so, and she's trying to help us, so I get that also.
So now it's pretty much, I mean, the money's pretty defined, so moving it is, there are a lot of options.
When he said,
Except, of course, excuse me, one last piece, except, of course, we can't have them give one more than they asked for, except, are we gonna give the Marvin Park more than they asked for?
Yeah.
So that, we can't give them more than they asked for, but we're gonna give Marvin Park more than they asked for. So that's an interesting little.
Well, that's why we need approval.
Well, of course we need approval, but
That's why we can't say that this happened, because we don't know.
yeah, I don't understand why we could expect them to approve something at Marvin Park that's so much over what was asked for if they don't override the rule of what's asked for. And then, you know, we did ask for more money for the fire station. And that's something where we could put money, and we, you know, a lot of people really have said that they want to do that. And we haven't talked about that priority, and that, you know, that was included in that bid, you know, and we can put that money there. We just haven't talked about it.
of course it would be more than we asked for.
Well, no, so in that situation, if we're talking about they award us 200,000 and we ask for 400, they've authorized the transfer from the museum project that they go through to up to the amount we asked for. So if we take some of this art park money and put it with the fire station, which is some of this idea, to do the clock tower.
With their permission, of course.
They again have to approve that we're gonna go over that asked for amount.
Which back to, that's what we're doing here. We don't want to do it on the fire
Till
station.
next summer, which puts it off till next summer till we have any kind of contract. And it's gonna cost us $400,000.
In reality, yeah. So I guess the question is, do we start this project or do we wait? Like, we know we've got 1.28 that's awarded, it's for Marvin Park, they can't tell us no. The contractor's saying they'll work with us to stay within that budget until we maybe get more budget or maybe don't. Do we take a risk and go with them? Or do we say, no, that risk is too much, we're gonna chop it up and rebid it so that we have legal documents that we don't have a risk? But you're talking waiting, so we're not gonna get any construction until next summer.
Yeah.
But then the material, everything will be more money, everything will be
And as
more.
much as
The design.
We could afford less.
yeah, and some with the extent of the money, like we are worried about it running out, but it's a similar situation where the state is very unlikely to let this money run out on you guys. They'll give you an extension if you really need it. I mean, we will have to show that whatever hardships of trying to do, and I think this obviously justifies for that kind of thing.
Because it's double what we thought or whatever.
Have you seen that done before?
I have not done it.
Oh, then that's the best.
Yeah.
I wish people would appreciate the park more. I've been going there for the last 15 years and boy, is it vandalized all the time. And that makes me upset to put all kinds of money into something that that people aren't appreciating.
Well,
It's gonna happen
the
again
condition
and
that
again
it's
and
in
again
now,
and again and
it
again.
screams to be vandalized.
Well,
It's
right now,
terrible.
We have something nice in it, people will probably.
No, they won't appreciate it anymore.
The
than they
vandals
do
don't
now.
vandalize because it's nice. I'm very much.
right now, we have no working bathroom.
Yeah.
We could have a working bathroom by next summer.
I need it.
If we don't do
They
that,
vandalize that. I've called the cops so many times and I've seen it.
well, we can all think of the badness.
We're not supposed to have this discussion.
I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. I
I
mean, it needed to be
It's
said.
very true. I know.
We're only allowed to talk.
Right.
We're not
So if we
allowed-
wait, then our bathrooms are non-operational next summer.
Okay, I make a proposal that we accept the Streeter bid as, explained to us by James.
And I second.
Do we have any more discussion about the bid?
One little thing, I would like, no offense to you, I'd like a little more clarity for Rodney writing this motion on what this is gonna say.
Do you know what the bid amount is?
I outlined it, I can pull up the exact numbers and everything here for you.
We're gonna approve it, to accept their bid offer, and we're gonna get a number here, 2,400, maybe 24 million or something. Yeah, phase one. And we're going, and in that, we're gonna.
No, we can accept, what James says, we'll accept the whole, contract, and then when we don't have the money for phase two, then Streeter will not hold us to it. Is that not what you said, James?
That's the hope, that's not the motion.
Yeah, Rusty is correct. What really you are motioning is to accept them as bid. I mean, everything else is kind of hearsay, a little bit back and forth. You guys will then at next meeting approve the change order to adjust the scope.
And when we approve that change order, does Streeter have to accept that?
They do not have to.
Nate, you got something to say with that?
Yeah, I mean, so you can always negotiate price concessions with a contractor. And so, I mean, I think if your motion to approve it tonight was not to approve it at the top price, but basically, you know, at the price that you're talking about, that should be sufficient for the contractor to even sign an amended agreement with the dollars changed. So price concessions, you're not negotiating really anything else about it. They're willing to just do the work that they've indicated for less than. So I think you guys are okay to move forward with this.
But we can approve it at the amount awarded.
Well, what they've said, according to James, is they've sent an email indicating they'll concede on price, you know, as long as the scope was also revised. And so if you're
Very good, Nate. Nate, we can't hear you very well.
You might be breaking up then. I know the screen looks a little funny. But anyway, they've indicated to James that they will agree to do the work. You know, indicated as phase one for the price, you know, that he's indicating. So if your motion tonight was to approve the agreement, you know, conditioned on a change order, you know, being issued as discussed, I think that would be fine. You can then sign it, and if they refuse to sign the change order, then they've broken the condition.
So we would approve it conditional.
But we would, but they would.
And if they don't accept that condition, then it's not accepted.
That's how we're gonna word it.
That's the lawyer, so yeah.
Thanks, Nate.
No, I just.
So the change order is just that, like, half of the project we don't expect them to do? Now?
Yeah,
We just want that, you know, we're just gonna say, yeah, we're accepting your $2.4 million bid. However, we're really only accepting half of that bid.
For half of the work.
Well, as your part of it, you're entering in it under good faith that you are gonna try to get this money and you are gonna try to award the work to Streeter. That's their side of it. Otherwise, they lose $1 million in work.
What of the other companies were given this option of like breaking up the project that way? That, like, what did we consider of having a half project built from the other presenters?
So that is the reason that you would have to accept it as is and then approach a change order. If you try to negotiate the contract as is, that is not working in good faith, and you have to essentially rebid the projects, phase 1 and phase 2. None of the other contractors were relatively close to Streeter.
James, James, I think you're actually misstating it. I mean, effectively what the village board is doing is negotiating a price concession with the contractor. They can do that with the lowest bidder. What the lowest bidder is basically saying is they're willing to split the project into 2 pieces and condition the second half of it on a funding issue. So, I mean, I think that's appropriate to do. I don't think you need to rebid it. Now, how you're accomplishing it is through the change order process, which is again why I'm saying awarding the contract condition on this change order being processed.
What he said.
We can negotiate with the lowest bidder. Always, Streeter's the lowest bidder. So we can't negotiate with the other bidders because they aren't the lowest bidder.
And again, I think the key here is the scope of the work is not changing. Streeter's just agreeing to divide it into 2 portions and make the second portion contingent on our ability to get funding for it.
See if I keep my
Put that in the motion.
Good luck.
You can get it off the video.
I like to make a small motion that the board get together and take up a donation to get Rusty on a payment plan for internet service so we can get him emails.
Yeah.
I got the computer picked out.
So would you guys like to revise your motion?
Yeah, what he
No,
said.
let's pretend we don't even have a motion.
He's
All right.
Let's start.
How about Nate tells us what we should, Nate, put in the motion. It's not on
Well,
the
it's
agenda.
award the contract to Streeter, as bid, but conditioned on execution of a change order to divide the project into 2 phases and make the second phase contingent on funding, wherever exactly this money's coming from, other projects in the art park or however that's phrased.
Yeah,
reallocation of DRI contracted funds.
Second that.
Okay. We have that motion.
You made it.
I mean, okay, it's gone on so long, I forget.
We have that motion. Anybody like to discuss that motion? Everybody understand it? And we voted. Rusty?
No.
Laura?
No.
Dave? Yes. Brian?
Yes.
Charles?
Yes.
And yes. Motion carries.
Want to write down what we just. What exactly? Go ahead.
Do we want to talk anything about the artwork? About our meeting? Or what you're doing there?
Yeah, I mean, so we're, part of, on Julie's insistence, if we are going to reallocate funds from the art park, we want to make sure that it's truly something that is not reasonable to do for the funding. So, they looked at the environmental resources of DEC and kind of had a slightly different interpretation. So we're going out and digging we're digging test pits to put a PID meter on there to further delineate the full extent of the contamination. So once we have those results, that will either aid or hinder our ability to wish to reallocate these funds.
What's the price tag on that?
Free.
Free.
Free?
You got you.
DEC had some interesting ideas.
Free more testing?
Fred's gonna be digging the pits.
So,
So
the level of testing that we did previously required a road to come out, collect sampling, send it out for chemical analysis. So with that, while it indicated that the soil was, contaminated to some degree and probably would require some remediation, our direction from the state and DEC was that if the amounts were not picked up on a PID meter, that's what the contractor would be using to indicate whether or not they had to do some sort of remediation. So we actually just acquired, Shoemaker Engineering is now part of Hunt, and they have a large environmental department. They have a PID meter, they're sending them out to the site to dig with Fred's help and dig, holes all over this lot and test the soil individually and make sure that, if this place needs remediation or whether it, is something that maybe could slip under just in the case. So.
So you're saying Hunt Engineering is picking up the cost?
You didn't say that.
Not exactly.
What are you saying?
Free, what did you say?
I'm saying Hunt is doing the work. It's not the same testing that you did previously.
Right.
So that's what I want to be clear on. So for us, the cost is we're going to send a guy out there. It may cost some of our budgets to go over a little bit, but it's work that we want to do to make sure that all the right decisions are being made and that we're providing you with the best quality services as far as our contract and consultant.
We're gonna dig the holes, they're gonna send their guy out, put the thing in the hole.
And we're not paying for it.
Didn't say that. Didn't say that again.
Somebody say agree.
As far as those services, there will not be any additional charge to the village. You will not see that on an invoice. No prices will increase as far as change orders in regards to this testing.
Mr. Mayor. So if the soil comes back that it's not as contaminated as we thought, or possibly it could have been, does that mean then that we must do the art park?
The state's gonna tell us that, because we don't get to pick. The state's gonna say.
I was gonna say, so
Get the
back to your art park, let's go, boys and girls. Okay.
Which is why we needed that thing.
Oh, I understand. I understand that completely.
I would like to say, at our last meeting, it was really obvious that we hadn't done the additional testing, and, we discussed it at the meeting before that we were looking for that more testing results so we could make a decision. But when the time came, we weren't provided with about any further information about the contamination testing, and it's not even in the minutes that we discussed it.
The idea that testing, the way it's being tested came from
The
the
discussion
DEC,
about the testing.
which happened Wednesday.
So there's two different types of testing that is going on here. So originally, when I brought up the testing to you guys and told you the extent that needed to be done for the delineation was continuation of the testing that you had already done. Going out there, digging it, collecting it with a tube, sending it for chemical analysis. From the DEC, they said, well, you don't necessarily have to do that. Here's an alternate that's cheaper and could be easy. We said to them, hey, is the contractor going to determine whether or not they need to remediate areas that do that? They said this, and I said, hey, I think we have a PID. We'll send a guy out there and dig some holes and figure this out.
What I'm saying is, we were presented with this information that wasn't complete, and then it was sort of in an order where we're told about, we make a decision about spending over budget on the Marvin Park, but now we find out that maybe the contamination might not be so bad, and maybe the art park could be back on the slate, but we didn't find that out until after we made a motion about approving a double, taking the money from the other project, putting it towards this.
That is up to your board if you guys want to. I'm not sure how that
Yeah,
works.
that kind of went past me too. I agree with you.
If the state reviews it and we're like, we don't show that we do our due diligence, and we're always asking for exceptions. We wanna ask for exception on, you know, on doubling the price on the Marvin Park, and we don't even show that we did the testing and any due diligence, we didn't do any extra designs. For the art park, we just gave.
We did a lot of designs for the art park.
Right, but none that included the art as, the feature or in the budget. You know, it never included art in the budget of designing the art park.
So I hope that we're getting all that.
Or the top, or the top of page 3 is where we discussed that.
Yeah,
In the minutes.
so the testing that we had done, which was $10,000, we thought was gonna be another $30,000 to do the delineation testing of money we don't have, or blowing up the art park money. Which we didn't know there was this cheaper option until we met with the DEC on Wednesday. And the DEC said, no, it's not that bad, do it this other way.
But I think the discussion about the testing should have went before our decision on the.
You could have, but we beat. So before the meeting on Wednesday, we only got that meeting on Wednesday
I think
because
Charles
Julie talked to the head of the DEC.
I think
So
he
you
needs-
better have a meeting with these guys.
I think he needs just tonight. The art park stuff could have been discussed prior to making the motion. I don't know how your guys' bylaws and stuff work, if that changes how people would be voting in one way or another, but.
I really guess that the state would provide free testing, you know, like, they,
Yeah.
like, you found contamination, let's see,
Yeah,
you know?
okay.
Like, they'll come down and look at it after it's found, don't you think? Don't they wanna confirm?
So just so we can get off of
Well,
that, did we do, core samples at the, playground on the fairground? That's sitting right next to Weissman's, and I bet you 50 cents that that whole blasted ground is contaminated.
So there are, different indicators of whether or not you should be calling in a spill to DEC. One of the highest ones on that list is a smell of petroleum or gasoline, which our inspector indicated while they were out there. At the art park, because they were digging for infiltration tests.
Right. At our last meeting, James said it would take an additional 50,000 to do the sampling. And at that time, he said that if significant pollution was found, we may end up spending a couple $1,000s more to remediate, to dig out the dirt, put in gravel, all this before we can do anything with the
Couple
park.
$100,000.
So with that information,
I
we
mean,
made
that
that
isn't even in
decision
the numbers.
that we did before. Last week, we made
That
it
affected our decision
based on
last
that
time.
information. Now,
Yeah, so now we've got a meeting with DEC and they said, might not be so bad.
Well, there's nothing we can do now.
What do we do?
We gotta wait for Julie this week to tell us what money can be used where. So, I mean, it's fruitless to continue talking about this tonight, because if we find out something different in a couple of months, then we can make a different decision then.
Well, I'd say, so here's the way I kind of picture this as it goes. You guys sign this and you go forward. If there is no, reason to not continue to work on the art park based on these tests for whatever reason, you're still in the same exact square, because Streeter has agreed to cut the scope for this work. You're gonna be doing it for the exact contract, nothing has changed for the art park, and you push forward.
Yeah, so
At this point, all you're really doing is trying to mitigate the risks. The alternative is to deny the bids, wait for the testing, and then the results are, if you do that, the results are positive, you can't do it, now you're behind 2 months on a process you should have started, you have to rebid. If they come back, completely clean, well, now you can move ahead with the art park, and you're still 2 months behind on a project you didn't start.
what's it?
I mean, Streeter's really kind of giving you a golden out here.
As far as what happened with Marvin Park, it's not any different, right? So if we get the money, we do the whole project. If we don't get the money, we still can only afford half the project anyway. So this, and it's really a bigger question. DRI level of what the state wants us to do. Do they want us to do one whole project, or do they want us to do two half projects?
And so your, to kind of your reasoning, and I touched base on this previously, Rusty, if we dig a hole at Mark Park and someone smells fuel smell or anything, we have to do this whole thing again. The only difference is at that point, you've got a contract and kind of have to go ahead with anything regardless. Now with the R Park, we're kind of trying to save the fact that we could be made construction with our hands tied.
Just cowards. Anytime you dig the ground, if you find this stuff, you're done.
I mean, that's neither here nor there though, because that's either is or isn't there regardless. It's not showing up on any, any maps or anything for any of your permitting. There's no reason. Same with the art park. That's why we've had to go to such extremes, because it was not something that was anticipated on any levels. The only benefit is that we had to do infiltration testing because it's a pit. We're going to be doing some storm issues. None of the other sites are we doing any sort of storm improvements that would have caused us to dig up and potentially try to find it.
So we should roll our dice on the golden out.
I mean, I don't like the implication that it's a gamble, because it's not. Even under the worst case scenario, Marvin Park only gets built to the budget that you guys have set, and then we continue with the art park, trying to figure out how we're gonna finish that.
Right.
That, like, your worst case scenario is exactly what's planned anyway. Your best case scenario is you might have options to move money around on the off chance that you can't build the art park. Now, there's kind of a scenario where, okay, they deny the funds being moved, and then you also can't build the art park, in which case you just lose all that money. Again, that has nothing to do with the decision that's being made right now.
It seems like the worst case scenario is that they start digging at Marvin and find that Weissman has blown the place up, so now we can't do that, and now.
Yeah, but it's like trying to prepare for everything though. You know, the worst case scenario is actually you guys dig and find an old Indian burial site. You know, so it's just not an eventuality to be planned for. It seems right in your face because of the digging that happened at the art park. But I mean, we dug.
Well, I always thought that was done already. That should have been step one. I always thought.
No,
well,
it's not even testing we would have done typically. Like, we were there digging up, we're designing the infiltration, so we sent the guy out there.
There's a spot you wanna build on. So that's gonna involve digging. So let's test it.
Well, there's DRI.
That's my thought process.
So
I'm saying there's a spot, let's build on it. Okay, let's dump all this money into the planning, and then all of a sudden, 2 years down the road, let's dig a hole and see if we can do this. Doesn't.
There's tons of environmental resourcing maps and stuff for DEC that show brownfields, that show previous mining situations, that show fuel containers. I mean, there are places around the art park all around that show, like, these are places that would be restricted for digging of all sorts. All of that stuff is researched and dug through in the feasibility study portion and the reports that you guys got. I mean, you guys seen the history that was written. I mean, it's 3 pages, and we combed through that. There's no indication of why there should be, the levels of metal and petroleum that we found. But there is.
Mike, I'm gonna get off of this, but Weissman's has been there for 80 years and has been dumping fuel and everything else, and oil and everything into that ground out and back of Weissman's for 80 years.
Like IBM.
You don't think that's not ever, we'll see how that's gonna work.
Don't forget the foundry material that Leon Halstead used to the cadmium, the lead.
Okay, I'm done with that.
Out of sight, out of mind.
Do we have anything else from?
Can I ask one question? The fire station,
Yeah.
did they come back?
August 17th.
August 7th? Okay, thank you.
And along those lines, you know, that I would like, if we've got any extra money, I would like to put it into that fire station rather than 22.4 million in the Marvin Park. I'd like to put money into that fire station. I don't know if we can, but I'd like to.
Well, so for the record, we indicated that to Julie. So she's supposed to be starting that.
Good.
The idea is we're gonna take any extra money of that and try to allocate it as an overage fund for the projects. So anything that goes by.
That's the thought I had for the projects, for what, yeah, can we use it in, could we do it here, could we do it there? That's what I always thought.
Well, because it has to be very defined, and it's not there.
Yeah, I know. It's still what I want.
It's not how we want it, for sure. It's not.
I know it's hard, it's correct, but still, I remember that. You know, if you want it, you gotta try to get it out.
Yeah, and I mean, trust me, we're really pursuing all avenues of this.
Yeah, and depending what our crude testing shows, the state might tell us to bid the airport. And that comes in double or triple what we think.
Yeah, I mean, there's still a lot of avenues of what could happen. It's about making the right decisions with the information we currently have. You'll never have all of the information.
But our park is gonna come in significantly over what we think.
Everything.
It just is.
And that kind of leans to our reasoning as well. Like,
We're gonna fill half of Marvin Park and half of our park, and half of Clock Tower.
So send me. Parking lot.
A full donuts of beer.
But it's not our money, so
Sure.
that's the problem.
What else we got to ask him? What else we got to ask him about?
so I'd like to leave you guys with one last thing. I feel like a few of you guys have felt like you were underinformed. You guys have my card. I mean, some of you guys can attest. I answer the phone for everybody. I'm happy to email you, CC you on anything. I send out as much meeting minutes as I can. Maybe they're not as detailed as you'd like. I'm happy to provide you with additional information, whatever I can do. I'll take your calls. I'll respond to you in email so you have it in writing. Rusty, if you want, I'll mail you a letter. I don't know if you'll get it for the project.
Give you stamps.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean,
Post office.
every Friday, we have a call with meeting.
yeah, and that was the other thing.
It's really sweet, and whoever else joins it. It's every Friday, 10 in the morning, I want to hear it in a public record. 99% of the time I'm here. You want to come? Come.
Yeah, it's
Is it a meeting with people here, or is it a meeting that?
Yeah, it's online, but I'm here.
You talking with Julie on Monday.
Yeah, those kind of meetings, they're tedious and they tear up a lot of the budget, but they're required by the funding. At this point, I've been at DRI meetings weekly for 4.5 years. So,
Who just got the latest one? Endicott? Are you doing Endicott?
not that I'm aware of. I think we were gonna bid on it, but we decided not to.
It's every Friday at 10 in the morning. I'm here.
All right. My
Thanks,
free to
James.
go.
I spend every Friday pretty much all day here.
Thank you, guys.
Don't get your phone.
Oh, I can't forget that old big car.
Thank you, Julie.
Thank you.
It's just suspicious you guys leaving together.
I wanted to hear the end of that discussion, because I was.
I worked with Julie a little down.
Yeah.
We're fine.
We worked out fine.
Good night.
Nice.
Luckily, my real job lets me be off on Friday.
What is it, department heads?
Yeah, let's do department.
Hey,
Get these guys out. Push them.
Paul, let's get Paul out of here.
Get
Paul out of here.
Yeah, look, yeah.
So I'll make mine short and sweet. You guys can read that. The biggest thing is work continues for the special EMS project that I brought up a couple meetings ago. And moving forward on that, hopefully beginning of September, we'll move forward with the board. A couple things that are not on this list is I'd like to see if the board / the clerk / whoever at the village office with the stamp of the mayor send a letter to the Benedum locksmith so somebody else can have access to order keys to the station. So I don't have to depend on somebody else. I asked Cindy on Friday to call up there and she said there was 3 authorized people on the list, and she could not order keys for them. So I eventually did get keys, but the next time it comes up that I need keys, then I'm in the same boat with waiting. So it's a village building, and even Fred can't call up and get keys to the building. Well, there you go. And it doesn't necessarily have to be me, but.
Make a copy.
Oh, yeah, they won't make
The
copies.
master key?
What's
The
that?
master key? What are you talking about?
To the
Your
station.
Oh, it's your station. Oh, I thought you were talking about here.
You get in the building.
Down
You get in the building, like they have the bills, and I can order keys how they have it set up.
See, I can order our master keys.
For,
For DPW.
oh, but yeah, you can't get station keys.
All right, we'll sort that out.
Okay.
Who was it through?
Benedict.
Yeah, it's the same as we are. I have permission now.
Well.
From our side.
For your side.
Yes.
They gave Cindy the list of names, and your name was not on it.
For your side.
For station.
Right, I'm on it for the DPW side, because I had to send a letter saying that Jeff passed away and that I became blah, blah,
Okay.
blah. So it's all they wanted was a letter stating what.
Well, I can send a letter, but
Exactly.
I'm nobody. I'm nobody. All right,
So
so,
Paul, how many keys do you need?
well, I got 5 keys from a certain individual on Saturday, but I waited for a month since we brought in the new members. So, right now I'm okay on keys. We bring in more people, somebody loses their keys, you know, people volunteering their time, knocking on the door to try to get in. The next thing is our chassis are in for the re-chassis. It's going to be a while before those ambulances go down the road to get re-chassis, probably a few months still. The price obviously holds, and we're in line because of what you guys did a few months ago to secure that. The next thing is there seems to be a push in New York State for a few individuals and a few individuals in this county to make EMS essential, which deep down I think is good for us, other than there might be some ulterior motives of, trying to create a county EMS system, which has its pluses or minuses. They put four vehicles on, and, just like, I'm not picking on anybody, the sheriff's department or state police, they could be somewhere else, and help is needed in the village. At least in the current program you have now, you have at least one on-duty crew assigned 24/7, just about 365. So just, if you hear some of that out there, just be cautious and make sure that your opinion is known. The last thing I have is I'm double booked for the next meeting. The EMT class starts. I won't be here. You guys want me to send a rep? Or are you happy just having a form sent? Okay. Okay, just want to make sure. I want to just make sure that we are represented. So, okay. Thank you. Sorry, I'm getting
Sorry, my life.
Okay.
I won't go through the whole spiel, but I do want to talk to you that I kind of worked out a deal today. Sorry, Mary, I didn't get to tell you in time because I just found out at the end of the day. So does board remember last year when we ordered a 2022 dump truck for the plow and salter and all that? Remember that?
Yep.
Well, just come to find out they never ordered it.
Really? Jeez.
Huh?
Who's that?
Robert Green. So I went through McGuire's and got a state bid of $16,500 cheaper for a 24 instead of a 22.
Well, we can't take that.
I know, that's why I was wondering if you were gonna argue with me. More expensive? I could have, but I always thought I was doing a hell of a stroke. So last year's for a 22 with the plow and salter was 95. I got a pull for 79. 16.5 cheaper. So are you good with this? Can I order it?
Let's move to allow the DPW superintendent to order the truck that he is.
From McGuire.
From McGuire, that he will give you the paper on.
I
At
second
the price he
that.
will give you the paper.
I second that, along with a pizza party when you get the truck.
Thank God. Well, I've been calling McGuire, the sale guy that I've been working with, and he would never answer my phone, nothing. So here about a month ago, I got on the phone with Robert Green himself. He goes, I don't know what you're talking about. I said, you gotta be freaking kidding me. That's not what I said, but anyway, that's what I said. So push comes to shove, his worthless sales rep didn't do a damn thing. And I was furious. So I said, well, you can shove your truck. Sorry, man. And I went to McGuire's. I know a guy at McGuire's and he gave me a state bid.
Would you read the number off the price number?
For which one?
The one we're gonna get.
79,308.
Okay. And is there just a quick kind of truck it is?
It's the same thing, 2000, this one's gonna be a 2024 Dodge.
24 Dodge.
Yeah, 3,500,
Same engine and so on?
everything.
And plow.
Gas.
And plow.
Gas. What?
What you said that? Plow.
Yeah, 9-foot plow, 9-foot Western, and a poly Western Salter.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Outstanding.
I'm done. I've heard enough.
So can we vote on it? Vote, yeah.
Don't vote.
We're gonna vote on it?
Negative, trending, so positive.
Yeah, whatever you guys gotta do.
Feedback online, they can tell something about it.
Yeah, Fred, just a couple quick questions, because you know me, I can't help it. So I just don't remember the authorization to purchase the truck from last year. Was there bonding involved at all, or how was it being paid for?
Our reserves. Out of the DPW's reserves.
No bonding.
Nope, yeah.
Yeah, I'm just trying to find the resolution that was authorized back then, because depending on how specific it was, then technically, you know, if it said very clearly to authorize that truck from McGuire, then we need to basically do a new resolution rescinding the old one and authorizing use of the capital reserve to purchase this specific truck.
That was part of the motion I made. That was part of my motion, Nate, that we rescind that old authorization and we buy it out of the capital reserve. Is that okay?
Excuse me?
Do we have to buy this tonight?
Buy it tonight?
Do the resolution, or can we do it?
I wanna order it. I need a truck before winter.
Nate, was that, Mayor,
It's
Nate,
kind of where you
was that okay that we rescind the old one and we, make the new one and it's coming out of reserve?
Yeah, that should be okay. It's just that if you do that, then it's subject to permissive referendum. So we got to wait, 30-ish days before Fred can put the purchase order in. If the prior resolution from last year was generic enough, then Fred could just say, yeah, I'm just substituting it. Everyone's okay with that, right? Without any motions, even, potentially. So I just need to look at the language from last year to see exactly what we said.
Yeah, no, what month it was?
No.
No.
I just remember.
I do not
It
remember
happened
the
a
year
year ago,
ago.
exactly. I remember it being $95. I was wondering.
Hang on a second.
Rusty's probably got it in his book.
Kevin, I just give you an idea.
4-1? Oh, that's not it. 8-17.
8/17 of 22?
Yep.
That was like, exactly a year ago.
Before the school
Huh?
year, right?
Exactly a year ago.
Yeah.
8/15 of 22, we,
8-17.
I'm just telling you.
Well, this is when I got the quote, so it's probably after that,
Okay.
I would assume.
September, first meeting in September.
Cause I had to come back and forth twice or something, 3 times.
DPW, oh, here we go, 9/6 of DPW, approved buying new dump truck, 95,808 from Robert Green Truck Division, from
September 6th.
September 6th.
There you go, Nate.
Can we just move that money? Without a permissive referendum, since we voted to spend 95.8, can we just spend less?
Yeah, so I'm looking at the meeting minutes. It said a resolution to approve the purchase of a dump truck and related equipment for an amount not to exceed $96,000.
Okay.
And so, yeah, I think you're okay to just approve the purchase from McGuire then, because
Does that motion say it's from Robert Green?
no, it doesn't say. Your notes say, but the minutes.
It wasn't from Robert Green. No, it's gonna be from McGuire. We just haven't got around to doing it.
It's okay, Rusty. It's okay. We try to make resolutions American.
So can I order this tomorrow, Nate, or what's the deal?
Yeah, you can order it tomorrow then.
You should go first. Withdraw that motion. No, because he's already approved to spend money on a truck up to 96,000. He's only gonna spend.
79,308.
So I withdraw that motion.
Yeah, we don't even need a motion.
Okay, we don't need.
I am okay if you want to have a motion to just approve the purchase from McGuire. That's okay.
You want us to do that? Should we do that to be?
Yes, just do that.
Move that we purchase a dump truck, that dump truck from McGuire.
1 year.
Up to $96,000, which is what we said we were gonna do the other time. So we're not gonna spend that, just up to that. From McGuire, that same amount that we dragged last time, from McGuire this time. Does that work? And that truck. Hey, we're just trying to.
Cocktail hour.
Hey.
Charles, yep. Any discussion on the trucks? Rusty?
Yes.
Laura?
I'm trying to find the old motion, but we just have
Yeah,
it.
right there.
Yes.
I'm 17. Yes.
Yes.
Just write that motion off.
Well, I think we should go back to Rusty's way of keeping records.
Oh, no, you fangled thing.
Thank you, Paul.
Motion was to buy a dump truck up to 96,000. What do you want to know?
I was just trying to see what it said in the minutes, like if it had any, I mean, I just don't see it mentioned.
If you find this all and you find it all out, what do you want to do?
Vote yes.
What's that?
She'll vote yes.
Yeah, then I'll vote yes. Yeah, I just want to confirm,
Confirm what?
I just wanted to see what it said.
Okay.
Paul has another thing to add.
Whatever it said, we're buying a dump truck from McGuire for this much money. Whatever we said last time, that's not what we're doing this.
I'll ask one more.
Hold on, we're still waiting for. Yeah, we might. We're abstaining. Charles abstained.
Doing the same thing as they did last time, right?
Mr. Mayor, can we, in one motion, approve all the mayor?
No, we have something to change.
I know the change. I know the change, but I'm just asking if we can do it in one motion, if we have to pop them up first.
I was gonna do each individual. I was gonna do individual
I'm
one.
not trying to make all the thing, I'm just.
No, I know. I was
I'm trying to say that.
do it the fast way.
Sometimes these days we do it.
Yeah, I won't read the whole thing entirely. I just do it the main.
You know, I want to change.
Yeah.
I'm just asking what.
Yeah,
It's
we'll
okay,
probably do it
I don't
that way.
care.
Yeah, it's a good enough shortcut.
While we're waiting, I'm trying to get ahead of the game
Yeah.
and move this along.
Also, yes.
You vote yes? What was that last thing, Paul?
Right.
Oh, wow. I'm sorry.
Paul.
What was that one last?
Paul.
Oh, the other piece of paper I handed you that says on top, not for public release,
Oh, yeah.
that's kind of what we do during the month.
Oh,
What the calls are,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
Gotta add.
Where they are, if you look on the right hand side, it says location, OWFD is one of our own calls, and if it's blank, you kind of have to look and see where the address is, because it came into 911 where, and then, you know, like this is,
Degree of confidentiality.
yeah,
Gotcha.
yeah. It's public information, but there's a lot of public information put together.
Should we do the merit raises first?
Rodney,
Yeah,
any
we-
surplus equipment for sale?
Do we, oh, we already voted, we just voted.
Fire department does, don't they?
There's just surplus.
Wasn't it? Well, we're trying to do the merit raises, but
I don't know what we're doing, sorry. Let's do merit raises before Fred moves.
So, Fred had did his evaluations of, workers, crew members under his watch, and feels that they are worthy of merit raises. So I'm going to read the names, I don't have to read them entirely, there's 5 people. So, I want to approve a merit raise for Meg Gilbert of 35 cents per hour. Derek Judson at $1 per hour. James Ehrlich, $1.50 per hour.
Yeah, that's a change.
David Thompson, $1 per hour. And Ken Wolf, 49 cents.
second,
Any discussion on those merit raises? Rusty?
yes.
Laura?
Yes.
Dave? Yes. Fran?
Yes.
Charles?
Yes.
Anything else for Fred?
As he's here now, I might as well say, get it on the open. The old sweeper, there's an interest buyer for that.
I was thinking about that as I drove in.
But you weren't the person that was looking to buy it.
I was thinking about it.
He knows how to run it.
Yeah, a lot of sentimentals to you?
For a parade special.
But I mean, I think it's one of these things we should be selling it. So, I'm just letting you know, we've got to talk. And then how we gonna do about selling it, how you, whatever you guys wanna do. Cause I know, now these two in, North Valley town, Mac, one that came here, was offering on it too.
So I guess maybe we'll put out a thing.
Yes, I just wanted to bring it to your attention.
Yeah, but Nate, figure out how we do it.
I'll talk to Nate.
Yeah,
See
figure out
how
how we
we're
do
gonna
it.
go by that. Yep. Am I good?
Fred, what do you got for Fred?
Excuse me?
Get that pizza party.
Yeah, pizza party with the truck.
Good night, Fred.
Good night.
Do we have anything from the police?
From the police, yes. So I'm gonna tell it to you, this meeting,
Yeah, we're gonna
potentially take action on this 2 weeks from now. The school has asked us to employ another SRO officer, we probably talked about this some before, and the terms will be the same, $50,000 for us, having the car for us.
Redoing the, not redoing.
We would require, in fact, I think the chief talked to me about it today, we'll require amending the contract. The only amendment of the contract will be that there'll be another officer, contract will remain the same, and then another car. I could find it here on my paper, I can tell, I'm not gonna go into a whole bunch of it now, but the gentleman's name is Jared Yako. We will, in order to do this, he will become a part-time police officer for the village of Owego, and then he will become the SRO for the school, and he is a retired police officer from Vestal, and 20-year veteran, and has been already interviewed by the personnel committee, and If I can speak for the personnel committee, tell me if I'm wrong, the personnel committee recommends him. Okay, so that's all the deal. You'll have 2 weeks to follow the process and think about it and do whatever, and Jared, Jared, Fiacco, Fiacco. So I'm alerting the public and the board, in 2 weeks, I will attempt to take action.
So the funding is for the officer and the vehicle will be taken care of by the, school?
The school will be buying this vehicle and donating it to our police force, just as they did the other 2 vehicles. All right, very good.
And Nate's working on the amendment.
On the change of the.
Already saw it, right?
That way, when the public, accuses us of spending money on police vehicles,
Okay, how to see.
proof that it's been donated.
But anyway.
Okay, that's right, that's all that. I'll know that that's not.
Anything else for police? National Night Out went really well.
No.
Went very well. The mayor is just getting better and better at cooking those.
I got my fireproof gloves.
Yeah, it gets better.
Yeah, he's got a good assistant.
Well, yeah. Quite
That was
quite-
wonderful this last week.
Tons of people came and had a good time.
Nothing else for the chief.
We'll be doing it again in,
It's coming right up.
October
the
6th.
bonfire.
Yeah, yeah. So that's everything.
Fire.
Oh, there wasn't a fire board meeting and wasn't in need any new fire trucks or anything.
They didn't burn down the pavilion with the flames
No.
on the grill.
There you go.
Fire is busy over at the fair, I know, so is EMS.
We do have the deputy clerk treasurer appointment.
Yep.
Can't do all that stuff, yeah.
That's under clerk, I guess, so let's start that.
Nothing from Dirk?
No.
No, he was supposed to be here, but he had a family life.
He's got nothing on the agenda, so I think he's good. If not, we'll catch him up next meeting.
We got a motion to make Nikki Averill a deputy clerk treasurer, and she's working on.
Move to appoint Nikki Arroyo, deputy clerk treasurer.
I second that.
Any discussion on that? So it just makes it the same as Cindy and
No,
Kim,
yeah.
because she's learning to take Cindy. She retired. Rusty?
Yes.
Laura?
Yes.
Dave? Yes. Fran?
Yes.
Charles?
Yes.
And yes.
Mr. Mayor.
Yep.
Move to discharge mortgage of John Schumacher at 227 Erie Street, the amount of $10,171.23.
I second.
Check this out, Rob, good?
Yeah.
Any other discussion? Rusty?
Yes.
Laura?
Yes.
Dave? Yes. Fran?
Yes.
Charles?
Yes.
Informational item there, you've got, Leonardo's Wine Bar on 34 Lake Street, change, has filed for a change of class to a full liquor license. So we don't do anything, just information.
That's what that, this is what's being.
That's approved by the state, right?
Full liquor license. You don't have any gripes or problems to say something to the state about that.
Thing, payment of bills. Everybody get them? Anybody have any questions?
You all set with that?
Yeah. Nobody likes paying bills.
Okay, it goes.
Second.
Any discussion about? Arrest?
Yes.
Laura?
Yes.
Dave? Yes. Fran?
Yes.
Charles?
Yes.
Minutes?
On the minutes, I noticed some things, oh, I could share them with you. Okay, so on, where we discussed, Brittany Woodburn.
What page?
Page 2, we did the Brittany Woodburn and the resolution. It says she addressed the board, and I did want to include a little bit more of the information that she provided to us. That, you know, we asked questions, and she said that this project was going to go back on the tax rolls after it was completed. Okay, so it's 81 North Ave, which is what the resolution is about. And it was a Main Street application where they asked us if we, you know, they had a grant they needed us to rush at getting this approved at, right? Because it needed to be done by July 28th. So they gave this presentation to us. So they said that the property will go back on the tax rolls after it's done, and that there would be retail on the first floor, a 2-bedroom apartment on the second floor, and a 2-bedroom apartment on the third floor. And they said they were putting in $275,000, and they were applying for $275,000, and they had their own match for that 50/50. And so if that info could be included from the discussion, because we were asking about it. And then after that, it says Providence Housing. She gave us an update on the Providence Housing. And it's wrong about what it says here. It is 12 units total, but if you could change it to say the language that she used, she said 2 triplexes, and the rest would be in duplexes. And here you wrote 2 2-units and 2 4-units. So if you change it to say 2 triplexes.
Can I jump in for a second?
Remind me on my report, I'll give you a new update on that.
Yeah. Can I jump in for a second? Will we have that video of that meeting online soon?
Yeah, it's there.
No problem. Okay. Could I ask that we put off approving these minutes? I'd like to watch the video of that.
Oh, yeah.
Can we put off these minutes? I know that you have some things and stuff, but a lot of times Rodney wants to.
Yeah.
Instead of trying to write it all down right now, can we
Just send it in.
you want to send that in to him and tell him all your changes? Because I'd like to watch that.
Yeah, so I would say we don't approve these minutes at this time then.
That's fine, we'll table them. Bring them up next time.
Send in the office what you got.
And the video's up there, so you can watch that.
So you put that up, you said
Yeah, I did.
late today? Okay, I did look for it to review.
I'm usually quick at it, but apparently not last time.
I just don't write it down for Rodney. There you go.
Send it in.
Alright,
So send it in.
we'll move on. Trustee reports. Trustee.
Can you come back to me? I have a couple of things to say, but my brain is not remembering right now. Come back to me.
Laura.
Okay, you always have to anyway, so this time.
Alright, good. You do it anyway.
I have a list today.
Uh-oh.
So,
Laura, you got a list?
let's see.
Laura, you got a list, you gotta send it to me. I'm not writing this all down.
Okay, so I sent something to the mayor and Nate. It's a unified solar permit and a resolution that, and so what I sent is like the sample resolution and stuff from the state and a fact sheet. And so, I'm hoping that we could put it on the agenda for next time or the next time after that, where we could have a small presentation, but it's really standard thing. So I'll just describe to you, unified solar permit is for householders and really small sized units and or applications, not for big farm fields or anything for us. And creates a streamlined process for everybody to get hooked up. So the code enforcement would have all the laws provided that, like, there's the building code laws that the state, when we adopt, and they're all the same. So these are the solar permit regulations, and so they're already created. We don't have to create anything. We just would adopt them, and it's a standard so that code already would have all the stuff there to have a system to approve when people come, and then the homeowners would have a way to get stuff without the hassle. So there's a big list of approved practices, policies, placement makers, just so that everybody knows if you're getting something off of this list, that it's okay to do it in this way. And you can just get a streamlined, quick, fast approval. And then if you're building your own modified system or creating something, then you would have your system reviewed for your house, because it's not something that's, already the standard approved thing that they've already, created the system for. So it is pretty simple, but it's a part of our the climate energy communities program that we get 200 points for that. So it really goes for a combo of all the systems for the CSC, the CEC, and the CRS that Julie's working on. So, so that'll be for the next meeting, hopefully.
Talked to Nate about it already, so for it.
Great, yeah. Reading the fact sheet was just a one-page thing. It made it a whole lot easier.
Could you get this information to all the board members before the next meeting?
Yeah, so that's why you would get the resolution and the information. I sent it to
We'll get that all put together.
Nate and the mayor, but it's just a blank form, and they'll put the village's name on it and then send it out. So then we had our hazard mitigation plan update meeting for our section of the appendix. We had a great turnout. We changed the meeting to happen at the Confection Connection because there's food there.
Location.
Yeah, so we had 17 people turn out. That was July 26th. And what that is we're required every 5 years to review and update everything that we do for our planning for natural emergencies and disasters. And so we reviewed what information we have, what information we would like to get. We're including as much as we can get for planning for infrastructure improvements, stormwater, all the stormwater stuff. And so we have to document that it's needed for our health and safety and emergency response of our residents and, of the community. So it's important that we do that. So we are looking for additional information for people who weren't at the meeting. I know that Public Works couldn't come, but we do need information on underground tanks and things like that. And I saw that the gas stations weren't included in it. After all these years, we never included our gas stations as tanks, that we have underground. We need information on the wells, and there's a lot. So we do need to provide more information for that, and it's the county's doing this, and they have a contractor the consultant to do it, and we only get our sections, we don't get extra time with them. So we do need to sort of hurry up and get our info in with what we, in our timeline. But we need to get a lot more info in so that we can get future money for the infrastructure improvements. So, we had our first Army Corps engineer meeting. That was July 31st. That was really cool. They have already been in town. They started work. They were here for 2 days, and they were here during that large rainstorm. So that was great to see it in action. They reviewed, they physically lifted up the sewer drains and all the things, and sampled all around, and looked at the runoff, and they see they have quite a problem. What we have to work with our old system. Climate Smart Communities Task Force meeting, we met July 24th. That went really well. Our next meeting is that fourth Monday this month. I did the cannabis meeting. It was training. It's called the Other Green Development, the next phase of cannabis local regulatory tools. And that was state training, the planning and zoning. Yeah, so planning and zoning get credit. I don't think we get credit for me attending, but so something from that I found, they said that we can make an agreement with the town, and otherwise the split of our money is 50-50. So all we need to do is, like, I would propose, like, I could, or somebody could come up with some language to send to the town to say, you guys voted that you didn't want to allow cannabis dispensary legal sales in the town of Owego, and the village did. And would the town, can the village keep all the tax money from any dispensary sales for ourselves, because the town doesn't want it, doesn't want the sales there. We, right now, if we don't do anything, we have to share half of the tax money that would be brought in. And all we need to do is write up an agreement and ask them to forgo any tax dollars from any dispensaries that would choose to open up in the village.
I thought they opted in.
Keep all the drug money out.
I thought they opted out. It was 100% us.
They opted out, so they don't want sales. So why should they get our money?
And I jump in there too, along with Mike. I was under the impression that if they opted out and we opted in, we get all of it. Now, I'm not sure that that's right, but that's what I was under the impression of way back when.
Right, no, I'm saying the town gets 50-50. If we do nothing, the town gets 50% of our money, of our tax money, unless we make an agreement, because they said it doesn't matter if they approve sales or not.
Now, this is
We
what
would
you
have to
asked
share our
this
money.
question and they said that?
It's just information they provided. I asked for sample language and I didn't get it yet.
Mike and I are under the impression from before that we understand that if the town's in and we're in, that they get half of our money unless an agreement is made. That was what an agreement was required. We were under the impression that if they opted out and we opted in, we got it all. Right. I don't know that that's correct, but we were under the impression, because we asked those questions before.
No, I remember even asking at that meeting if they would forego the funds, and they left. However,
We're not
I would
talking
like
to them.
I would like to send them a letter asking them to not collect if we have a dispensary that opens up, we would get tax money from it, right? And right now, if we don't make an agreement, that we have to share 50% of that to the town.
Well, we'll check in on it. Make sure that's true. I don't know if that's true.
Yeah, I remember hearing that.
We understand what you're saying, but we still believe that whole scenario is in.
Right.
We are under the impression that if they're out and we're in, that they don't get in. But we need to find that out.
Okay, well, I did attend this conference, and I can tell you.
Well, we have been in NICOM and talked to Wade about this stuff.
We talked, I was
So I'm not sure.
NICOM in May.
That doesn't mean.
Now, there's a whole lot of new laws that they've updated, and they, one thing with the Clean Indoor Air Act to know is the businesses and the building owners can be fined $2,000 per violation if people are caught, smoking or vaping indoors. So that's just one good thing to know.
What was the numbers there?
2,000 per violation.
For smoking or vaping marijuana indoors?
Just smoking anything, yeah.
On the
Yeah, that's the way
establishment,
we have to do it.
on the establishment or the individual?
$1,000 fine for smoking a cigarette indoors?
That's a clean indoor act.
Yep.
Yep. And, they're working at the gray market, they're now called. Now they have more, enforcement things going on that they're working on, like civil penalties of up to, 20,000 per day. That started in May, that they have the enhanced enforcement power. And they've added like some landlord liability legislation, as ways that control like where, well, it can help for, they added landlord liability legislation that they're working on. So that added, like before they were overwhelmed and didn't have a way to do stuff, right? And so they've added a lot of language to work at the problems that they've been experiencing. So, when they're trying to evict, sticker shops and stuff like that, they've added legislation for that. Okay,
My
so,
understanding from that is that, since there's the illegal shop in the town of Owego, it's the town that has to, penalize the landowner.
Well, yeah, I mean, if it's not town outside the village.
Right.
There's the illegal shop on Fifth Avenue.
Right, but that's not our jurisdiction.
No, that's what I'm saying.
But the one that's in the
We
village.
can't do anything
The one in the
about it.
village is our jurisdiction.
Yeah.
okay, so, yeah, so I would look into, I would like to ask the town to, agree not to take our sales money, our sales tax money.
Yeah, we'll look into that for sure.
I missed the OHPC meeting of August 3rd, but I reviewed everything, and they're really cooking along. And then Julie Nucci made a request to be reimbursed for her conference. That was a floodplain managers conference, and she gave a presentation, and she sent a request before it and after it, and sent the money amounts. And so I would just like to formally approve that we reimburse her.
What are the numbers?
The total is $454.05.
But she had sent us that for kind. jump into it. When she sent us the proposal of potentially, paying her $7,500 a year, that was also a thing she asked for, was the payback of going to the conference.
Yes, I make that motion that we, reimburse Julie Nucci for the conference, for the $454.05.
$454.05. Well, I'll second that, although I'm not gonna wanna pay that now.
Any discussion on that one? Rusty?
Yes.
Yes.
Dave? Yes. Diane?
Yes.
Charlie?
Yes.
Dan? Yes.
You're supposed to even want us to tell them where it's coming from.
From the bills, that's what's.
Well, technically, it could come out of,
I didn't mean that to go along.
all right, good. I mean, it could come out of the DPW.
Yeah. I'm just
I
joking.
mean,
Yeah, joking.
it'd be easier on the budget over there, just because of the content, of the presentation. And then, Julie's been doing a lot of work, for us, and so I would like us to hire her, to complete the scope of work that she's brought in. You know, it's a $1.3 million that she's brought in, just doing, working, you know, over these past couple of years. So it's just a huge scope of work that needs to be completed now, and so I would like consideration of hiring Julie as I guess it would be like as a independent contractor is the titling that it's to go under.
Did we set money aside for this?
We put $10,000 that we were required to put for, Barton, because we didn't have it in the budget, but we did not put more money in the budget to pay potentially, if we wanted to do that $7,500 to Julia, although I don't know if that 10 grand had to all go to Barton, or if some of that could have gone to Julie, we weren't sure about it, if we wanted to do it at all. But we didn't put money aside for, specifically for that.
Laura, I think we need to consider this more. I mean, I would like to know the information on what you're proposing, and then we can talk about it at the next meeting.
Did you have a number of some sort, or some thought about how to compensate her?
Well, there's some, I think that we probably can't afford her at a professional rate, and that we're probably going to be asking her to do it for a whole lot less than somebody would get paid.
We just kind of making a proposal that we pay her. Do you have any thoughts or numbers or anything?
Well, we already have, last year we hired a woman as a assistant or a grant writer to do work, and so it would just be at that, somewhere around the same rate, or I mean, I think Julie's gonna be doing, she's definitely gonna be doing a lot of work.
Would it be an hourly rate? Because that position is civil service, so she'd have to.
Well, I appreciate everything she's done, but we need something specific before we can
That position is.
make a proposal
An
here.
actual employee.
That was an employee, part-time,
Yeah,
office specialist, $30 an hour is what we did for that particular person.
I don't know if she wants to get rid of it.
It would be, so I'm not totally sure about I think it's like, so because she started a business, so that way she can go through that process to become a woman-owned business, so that she'd be one of those people that you can, you know, when we apply for any state grants, we have to have a certain portion for women and minority-owned businesses. And so she's in that process now to start doing that, so that way, you know, we we'd be able to hire her as our, you know, included in a woman-owned business.
Can I interrupt you again?
Mhm.
So we had spoken about this a little while back, and we kind of said we would like Julie to come, tell us what it is she intends to do for us, and tell us what compensation she wants for it. Had we not mentioned that, well, I know you're advocating for that, but we still need to know, actually probably from her, what is she proposing to us? I know you're trying to do it, but she needs to tell us.
Can we table it until then?
Well, we can't, yeah, we don't have anything to take an action on.
Yeah.
We need to find out from her what she wants to do if we have any desire at all.
Didn't I give you a copy? So I kind of.
I've got her letter, is that what you mean?
Well, there's a list
Of things that she did.
Yeah, that's what she gave me, yeah.
Yeah, that doesn't fulfill what we're talking.
I asked her to give me a breakdown. So I guess.
So what she did was she gave us this letter that says, what I have done as a volunteer for the Owego and all these things, but this doesn't tell us what she plans to do, what kind of grant stuff, what kind of administration, what kind of whatever.
Well, you know, earlier she sat in the meeting and told us exactly what she was, you know, working on, right? So we can understand what she's working on these grants.
Actually, what she told us mostly was, yeah, things that the CRS is doing, et cetera, et cetera. But she didn't do a proposal of, or anything about.
Number of hours.
What exactly is it position? We know that you're working on all these things, but that needs to be a whole lot more specific than that. What, I think.
I know she's qualified, she'd be a good asset.
Yeah.
Just gotta put it to the back.
I don't need to think about this, because I know that Owego is she's trying to open her own company to do this for other companies.
Yeah.
Other municipalities. Is there some kind of an ethical conflict that we're paying for her to get all this experience?
I suggested that to her because because she's doing this work, and I suggested to her that she would be an excellent consultant to get, you know, to do for other communities based off of this experience. But she could also potentially get it now doing it. And so she's entered the process, but she's
But it changes when we start paying her, call her an employee.
Our thought process, potentially, I don't know for sure, was, okay, she'd asked for $7,500, kind of a little stipend. She wanted to continue to do a bunch of things for us because she cares, et cetera. She wanted a stipend kind of a thing, but not into the full, I'm a professional and I'm gonna want $60 an hour kind of thing. That's what I was thinking that we were sniffing at before. But we need to know what she wants to do and what her intentions are.
I don't know how many hours she plans to work to get a budget on that.
And of course, we've said this too also, man, that's good language, that if we do engage her in some way, do we need to have a staff or at all? We're just talking a lot of stuff here, so we need to talk to her some more about that. But there's nothing, we don't have any proposal now of anything, do we? Did you have, I was going to ask you if you had a proposal.
I don't, but we've all received these requests for many times, and I'm just asking that we, actually take it up and look at it.
Yeah, I think we should talk about it next meeting, once we have something concrete. Well, we're gonna talk about hours, wage, any other stipulations.
And there's two different routes. One route is she's her own company and bills us X number of dollars. And the other route is she becomes a village employee, legal employee, and gets a W-2.
How do we do it with Jan Nobles? What is she? She's a contractor.
Yeah.
That would be what we would do, I would guess, not an employee.
Yeah.
But if she wants $30 an hour like her grant writer, that's a completely
Then we
different.
got it. Yeah.
Because that's not a Jan Nobles route. And that person is civil service titled and tested.
Yeah, she wasn't asking for, she didn't ask for a price or anything. doing the work, the massive amount of work. And we need somebody to do the work, right? We don't have anybody to do the work that she's doing. And so we need her.
I think she'd be a great asset to any future grants, you know, they want to consider a percentage. You know, that's even going to get her more incentive to fight for more grants for the village, to take the tax burden off the taxpayers.
And of course, one of the plays on grants, yeah. Charles was saying, moving along, guys. One of the plays.
It's gotta go to work, yeah.
One of the plays on the grants is to try to get grants that pay for the grant writer. Yeah. That which is excellent.
Yeah.
Charles needs to go. Let's move that.
Yeah, that's it.
All right, so we'll look into that, because there's some legal things there, like, to make sure she's really a professional service, like, accountant or something like that, because those we can just hire. Other things, not so easy, if you get bids, lowest bidders.
That's why she started her business, so that she would be able to be hired as a
So we'll look into that.
contracted service.
Point well taken. She does 100 million things for us. She's been very valuable, and having her do 100 million more is certainly a wonderful idea, and we got to figure it all out.
Civil service is quite the speak.
Yeah, oh yeah, no.
Inflation. Move it. Very good, Laura.
Yep, that's it.
Dave, I'm good. All right.
The only thing, the cemetery committee, they're having a work day at the cemetery on, August the 19th, Saturday, 9 to noon. We're working with, Dale and Tina Utter. They're going to be training volunteers how to reset, the small tombstones. We'll be working in the, GAR section. And so I'd like to encourage everybody that can to come and volunteer. Be a very worthwhile time. That's it.
Charles?
On behalf of the mayor, I had attended the hazard mitigation planning meeting that was held at Infection Connection. Just want to thank Ron and Michelle for hosting it. It was very informative. That's all I have.
Charles, you got that piece of paper that he left with you that we had that 4 or 5 page. Remember, I left it with you and said that hold on to it for me from that.
Oh, I don't have it.
No, you don't have to, but something.
Yeah.
All right, you good to move on? Communications? Communications, I don't have anything official besides fairs this week. Last I knew, they still needed a ton of volunteers. Not gonna be there Thursday selling tickets, and apparently
Fair.
developing during the meetings. I'll be there Friday cooking for the 4-H.
You helping the 4-H too?
Huh?
Said you're helping the 4-H also?
Friday, yeah, cooking. So if anyone wants to volunteer, so looking for it. Another, I guess it's not an official communication, but communication from the land bank. I'll put on that hat. The Providence housing deal is off the table. The negotiations didn't go.
They really wanted an awful lot, didn't they?
Yeah.
Forget it. Don't.
They wanted, a lot for nothing.
Yeah. Hey, Mike, can I ask you a question about 81? So what's the story about that's going to be on the tax rolls? So the land bank gets the grant, they put all the money in the building, what happens to the building then?
So the land bank is forming another for-profit corporation that the bill, once it's done, will get transferred to.
This is part of but we part of the land bank, there'll be a for-profit corporation or something like that. And because there was a rumor that they wanted to own it and use it as a profit maker.
Correct. To fund more land bank stuff.
Okay, which isn't not a terrible idea, depending on.
Well, because right now the land bank is fund 99% through, there's a state budget grant basically that funds land banks. So they're looking down the road, seeing that is likely eventually to go away. So they're trying to build some kind of revenue.
So if they form a for-profit, then it won't be a pilot, it will be assessed at whatever it's assessed at, although if you put $600,000 into a building on North Avenue, I don't know what the heck you want to assess that, because Cause it ain't worth 600, but whatever, it'll be assessed at whatever it is, and there'll be taxes paid on. Cause that's one of the things that we continually struggle with is pilots and nonprofit and everything, so.
The overall goal of the land bank is to help increase the tax base, so they're trying to.
To try to do it in that way, and all the other things that they do have value, but they also hurt the taxpayers over there, so this is a potentially good thing here, thank you.
Mayor's report. Anything besides crazy. Anybody wants to come to the DRI meetings for every Friday, 10 o'clock.
What time?
10 o'clock. We're not necessarily in this room, but I'm here somewhere. Find me. I'll be on my phone with me.
Last thing, I got a couple things I want to ask about.
Yep.
Because I said, tell me about the Porch Fest, are we still having it, when is it?
So I am going to an HOM meeting tomorrow, because it was kind of my idea that one of us sit in their meetings, not be on their board, but see what's going on.
That's a good idea, except you get stuck doing it all.
Yeah, sometimes. So
Delegate some of this.
I'll be at the HOM meeting. They have canceled Porch Fest because the organizer of Porch Fest is no longer on HOM's board, nor is half of the other
Half of the other people?
I looked at their website.
Because they're having infighting.
Right.
Okay.
They don't have a president, a vice president, a member at large.
Right.
They don't have their executive board. So they can only meet as a membership.
I guess, I don't know how it works, but yes.
Yeah. Well, yeah, they can only meet as a membership.
Okay, so
Yeah.
Porch Fest canceled, and troubles there.
And they're trying to tool the troops to do Halloween thing and what's on the river. But Porch Fest was too quick to when everybody quit.
Okay, gotcha.
And they made people who were organizing that quit. So.
Okay, so I'm just gonna I've been told that I need to tell people what I'm thinking and what might be coming up. And there's a bunch of things that have been put off for a long time, and so here are some things, I don't know if and when I'm gonna get around to doing my part in this. Animal ordinance that I was asked to work on a while back. Zoning ordinance for marijuana shops, lounges, and growing facility. Cause I'm sniffing about somebody fooling around over here at the Elm Street School, or who knows what though, anybody will try to, so what, any kind of zone, yes.
I thought the growing facilities had to be authorized by the state.
But we're talking about whether we want some zoning ordinances in our village about where they could go. That's what I'm talking about. Not whether they can have permission, but where they can be, that's the zoning ordinance. So that's a concern I have, with something I'm thinking. Parking, which we do forever and ever and ever, and there are many things, and there are a bunch of parking rules and things that need to be changed, just in the very basic. So that's another thing. Permit fees for various permits and digging holes, et cetera, et cetera. We talked about that fee structure, and mass gathering rules and permit. These are some things that keep getting pushed by, and I'm going to address a bunch of these things, and I want to just let everybody know that sooner or later we need to, and not way later, we need to address these things and a bunch of other things. That was it for me.
Okay, so as long as you guys are good. Last thing is public comment.
Oh.
What do we get?
This is my first meeting coming to. My name is Colton Buck, and I work over at Lockheed with sitting here, Dad there, Mike. I live right next door to Rusty, so we have a DRI project going on. I know a couple of you guys, David and Fran, were here to approve that project at 16 North Avenue when we were proposing it. It's going well. Just saw the meeting was tonight and thought I'd listen in. So.
I gotta get hold of you about some stuff.
Yeah.
Usually not this.
We gotta go golfing at some point.
Anytime.
When you're free. Yeah, when I'm free.
Bowling
That's the hard part.
Bowling season's starting.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I bowled a lot, so better find you there. But anyway, there's some potential extra paving because of the parking lot project. They have to get a hold of all those buildings about.
Yep, I know, I've been talking
Couple of days.
Bill Hamilton, I think is the name of the guy over that Bullfire.
Yeah.
I got his card when he was out there. Yeah, I've been talking to
Yeah, how's that working for coordination if somebody doesn't, oh, that was something else I was gonna ask you. If somebody doesn't know,
I gotta get all everybody like
some kind of coordinate, code red or something.
We're supposed to get official quotes, which we haven't gotten yet.
For that stuff. So you'd have to, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but this is your opportunity. Are we going to pay for, because we should, the paving of Lounsbury's and John's driveway? That should be paid for by, I'm sorry?
That's why I need the quote.
Because we should be paying for that. I mean, the DRI should be paying for that. I suppose.
off Temple?
Real, what?
Off Temple?
No, off of,
Off North?
because off of Temple is gonna be part of the paving project, but off of North, that's technically not the Villages or Hyde Parks, but that is an entrance, and that should be paid for by the DRI, because it's used by the public as one of the main entrances.
Yes,
Okay,
we'll talk about all that very soon.
Okay. Sorry, back to you.
Oh, yeah, and also you're talking about that area that goes into that alleyway between, our building at 68 and then the next over there at 64.
Yeah.
Right, so there's that big section that has potholes too, and that's not part of our property, I'm sure. I know that as part of the funding for the DRI, it was supposed to be, like road front, that's why we're able to get the alleyway, because like ours use that.
Yeah.
Alleyway there, so I don't know.
Don't hate that other way. I love the little crinkles.
Yeah, no, don't pave over that, but what goes up and meets to it there. Yeah.
It's Austin Conti-Buck.
This is my wife.
That's Paul's daughter.
I had a couple things, but you answered one of them.
Perfect.
But the other thing was the whole marijuana thing there. They're not gonna, until somebody calls that OCM, they're never gonna close those shops down. Either that or until somebody brings a license for Tioga County. That's when they'll shut them down. That's what they've been doing all along. All the ones they've been shutting down are in areas where they have somebody who's been approved for a license.
That's true. Both of those might be.
Till then, they don't really care about these other shops.
That's true.
That requires enough fuss to be made. If we
Yeah.
make enough fuss about that, and do enough things, and the things are in place to make it hard for them.
Yeah. And when they do the parking lot on the High Line, are they gonna fix the drainage so it's not flooding every time it storms?
Yes and no. So like we're not installing new drainage, but the new parking lot will slope correctly and not puddle up everywhere.
Slope correctly.
It tends to puddle right where all the potholes are.
Because the parking lot goes right to that dry well with that drain now. And if you saw this last rain, it was the worst I've ever seen it. It was insane.
Yeah. So we'll still have the dry well problem.
Are they gonna dig that up and put a heck of a bigger dry well in them?
I think
We said that to James way back when, that's a nightmare, and when you're planning, designing that, something has to be done about that. Okay.
And I was gonna say the main problem with both 64, 68 and your building 70 is there's that ridge in the parking lot that actually slopes back towards the building. And there's that one drain that's actually capped off, so it can't drain. And we have a sump pump system that we installed at 68, that goes off every single time it rains because it has to go down in there and then get pumped back out, so.
So they should fix the ridge part.
Yeah. That's sloped down.
I'm not trying to, because I'm there and I've got my building, your building, and if we got rain coming off our roofs, that's our problem. But we got rain that's on that parking lot that's sloped, that's somebody else's problem. It shouldn't be your problem. That needs to be fixed by.
The slopes will be. So if you have been, because I was in the Court Street lot when I just poured, and they fixed it. No big puddles, actually. They got really fancy lasers and they know what they're doing.
Well,
Right now, it all pools right where all the potholes are.
I don't know who's gonna do it, but he needs to have the way that lot works, that needs to not be going down into his building. There needs to be a
Well, it should go away.
Yeah. And that
Toward
needs to
whatever
happen.
drains we do have, which are just holes in the ground, which they're supposed to clean out and inspect. And I know in the Court Street lot, we ended up replacing a bunch of stuff, which was some of those change orders we're out of money for training.
Yeah.
If we start replacing more drains and drainage, and we're gonna be paying for it, not the DRI. Yeah. But it might be the time to do it, we are paying for it.
I will say that, with my project, the way I was able to bring some of the costs down for the DRI, originally I paid a contractor to come out and do a full bid plus a 10% bogey on what they thought it was going to cost to do each of the items. And then we went out and itemized everything and got bids on each individual thing. And then one of the things that came back, I was building the decks. I had originally had a contractor, budget about 70,000. The lowest bid we had was 150,000, which we didn't accept. So we went through and did another full compilation study to see what the entire material cost would be plus a bogey, and total materials came out to 40,000. So bidding 150 didn't make sense. So we had all that background knowledge plus the original bid to be able to go argue those back down. And I don't know if that's a similar situation where you're talking about with Mark Hard.
No, we're hiring you.
Doing something like
We're
that.
hiring you to do that for us.
Yeah, so that can be something you can do to argue back to them to say, all right, is it really, 300% of your material cost is labor, it doesn't make sense. I don't know, something to think about.
Good questions for our architect.
Is the state finally gonna start paving here at some point?
Oh, I'll put that in communications. I did talk to Ron at State DOT. They are replacing all of the curb ramps to be handicap compliant. Veolia is replacing a whole bunch of water lines and hydrants and all kinds of stuff along the state roads. And the state plans to mill and pave Front Street from Church Street to the Park Field, Park Street, Court Street, North Ave, on Main Street from North Ave to Liberty Street, Main Street from Liberty Street to Price Chopper. It's supposed to be completely repaved by Veolia.
Main Street from Liberty to Price Chopper, that's
Good luck with that one.
we didn't know about.
And North Ave from Main Street to the underpass is state DOT. The state will be milling and paving October.
Right, Dan? But of course, they can't, don't be doing that till Viola, it's all done, because.
And the state's milling and paving will all be at night.
Well, the road might last a little longer if they actually dug down there, took out all that brick.
So most of it they're not going to.
Dusted concrete that's underneath it.
So they know that too, and they don't have enough money.
Don't have enough, and if they can go down there and take out all that brick, now you gotta fool with what's under that brick. So you're not just doing that brick, now what you gotta do base another, base for another floor.
Oh, yeah.
Nightmare.
Well, they'll know it, David, it'll be just like this again in a year.
Right, which they know. And they tried to fight the state to get them to do the right thing. They don't have money. I asked them about it's not our deal, but the project on the highway, because they're supposed to repave 17, the same stretch they did 434. And that came in, the bids for that came in $18 million over budget. So they're rebidding it in hopes that it doesn't do anything.
That marijuana profits are gonna make up for this. I was reading this stuff in the paper, they were expecting this, remember, hundreds of millions of dollars, and so far they got 7 cents.
They didn't come in at 18 million, they came in at 18 million over the budget.
Yeah. No, I'm just saying, the proposed marijuana tax sales is incredibly less than they had promised or thought or whatever.
So our Marvin Park.
Because typical New York, they passed yep, it's legal, you can sell it, but never got their ducks in a row first.
Hey, we gotta get it out of here by midnight, and Teresa's here.
Please.
Yeah.
I think I just got insulted.
I'm trying to move us along to get to you, Teresa. No, I know you're here, so we've gotta get to you.
Oh, well, actually, I just need to listen tonight, actually, for the most part. But the marijuana thing, is a discussion that I want to delve into a little bit more. Cause I wasn't here for when you guys didn't, decline. So the town opted out, and you guys did nothing, so you opted in.
Is that because you wanted the tax money? Why did you do that?
There's all sorts of reasons. We had, I don't know how many public hearings about it. Personally, for me, not one person showed up in opposition to it at all, ever, which was surprising to me personally.
And almost everybody that showed up had a financial interest. It wasn't just our aging population of Owego. None of them showed up because they didn't show up. But an awful lot of people that had a financial interest showed up. Not an awful lot, but 10 or 12 or whatever it was. But that's a long story about why not.
I didn't go to the hearings in the town, I don't know what happened there, but, it's hard to opt out of something when 0 people vote.
Yeah, we got contentious with that debate.
We did.
Yeah, well, I went to all the ones, the town of Owego. So I understood all of that. There was a young gentleman, which I might remember his name or not, but he came into there, he was all, I flipped the village board, and I think that, we're gonna get all this tax money from Pennsylvania, all these people are gonna come up here and we're gonna get all this money.
We know which guy that was.
Yeah. And so, it still didn't go over very well with the town of Owego. And there was a nice article in the Penny Saver too about the detrimental effects of marijuana on the young developing now. So, but I was curious as to why. Now that Laura's brought up, the town's gonna get half of the tax money. I'll talk to Castellucci about, what happened there, to see if that's even true. Cause I talked to him all the time. So that was just, I'm still looking at trying to do something in the village. I don't know if I'll be able to do it at all. I was looking at 442 front to see if I could run a business there, a woman-owned business. I have a good idea, but the cost is too high. It's just too high, and it would need, some changes from what I want to do. So I'll still come to these meetings if I can.
I'm gonna try to figure out how to get the heat fixed. Anybody else have a reason?
Teresa, we want to encourage you, if you can find the right situation to open a business in Owego. It's just difficult to find something that fits you, that fits the rule.
Yeah, my 342 would have been perfect for what I wanted to do. That whole thing is just an unfortunate series of whatever. So, water under the bridge.
How's that?
Also, can I get the